He's watching this game. Certainly Thiago Silva was out there helping to the players to warm up before we started. And now we get underway, and Schweinsteiger immediately takes up that deep position in front of the back four. The Germans give the ball away. Luis Gustavo intercepted. Klose tries to go around Marcelo, and now Marcelo building over on the left-hand side. 5 live, breathtaking fixture. Germany-Brazil, the ball played forward, Schweinsteiger cuts it out, it almost dropped to Oscar. The Brazilians trying to set an early tempo here, and Bernard is playing over on this right-hand side at the moment. The ball is played forward to Fernandinho. Fernandinho's going to try and win a corner kick. I think he might have made it down there. Brazil attacking right from the start, with Maicon doing good work, and they have this corner inside the first minute of the game. The first test for Neuer and his defenders. Fernandinho makes his way into the 6-yard area. David Luiz is there, who's been quite a specialist in the knockout stage of the World Cup with goals. The corner kick to be taken by Oscar, but before it does, there's something happening on the goal line between Neuer and Fernandinho, which the Mexican referee sorts out, and now we're ready. Oscar prepares. Bernard offers his services, and it goes headed away by the Germans, well defended there by the centre-backs. Marcelo picks up the loose ball, and Hulk, who seems to be playing over on the left-hand side at the moment, finds Dante, who's stayed forward following in the corner. In it goes, headed away by Hoverders. The Germans haven't crossed the halfway line yet. Now they might, as Kroos, Ozil's tumbled over. And Brazil have the ball again down this right-hand side of the field. David Luiz is pointing to Oscar. Fred is waiting in the penalty area. Oscar turns the ball back a little short to Luis Gustavo, but Gustavo goes snapping into the challenge, and this is a really good start from Brazil. Gustavo again with Fred poised in the area, by the corner flag, inviting the challenge, looking for the corner. It's a throw. Danny?
This is exactly how Brazil start against Colombia. On the front foot, Hulk is on that left-hand side. A lot of people are expecting Bernard to play over there, but he played very, very well, especially in the first half against Colombia. Got the ball and ran at people and caused problems.
Gustavo on the edge of the German area. He falls over as well, but Marcelo intercepts ahead of Muller. Marcelo's shot is wide. And the Brazilians are rather optimistically appealing for a corner kick. It's not there for them. A little bit of late evening sunshine breaks through. It's certainly been overcast over the last couple of hours, but it's absolutely perfect conditions for this semi-final.
Well, Brazil very much on the front foot. I think Luis Gustavo was tricked by Schweinsteiger. Referee, again, been a little bit lenient, but we've seen a lot of that during this World Cup so far. But Brazil very much on the front foot. I think they want to get at this German side early on.
Boateng's rather aimless ball out of defence, that really isn't very German-like at all. They do keep possession most of the time. The morning newspaper in Belo Horizonte, the big headline this morning was BH, Belo Horizonte, Capital do Mundo. That's how they see it here. Long ball forward down the left-hand side, looking for Hulk. Lahm's let it run on, and Hulk has got there, and Hulk pulls the ball back, and Neuer makes the diving save, and I'm surprised that Lahm wasn't tighter there on Hulk over on the far side.
Well, at the moment, the Germans are rattled. They're giving the ball away, hit a couple of long balls so far.
Now they've got a chance to go forward. Khedira picks out Klose. In steps David Luiz. Klose rides the challenge, but then he's helped out by the player who's come in for Thiago Silva, Dante, playing in the World Cup for the first time this evening, the man who made his Brazilian debut when Scolari returned to Brazil at Wembley against England in February 2013. On 5 Live, the Germans, you can just see now, they're just trying to calm things down here and get a little feel of the ball, because they haven't had any possession at all early on here.
Just listen to the crowd though, Mike. Every time the Germans get it, there's booing, there's jeering. Every Brazilian pass is a cheer and an ole. This is going to be some atmosphere, and I think this is going to be some game.
Throw into Germany. All out of play from Maicon. Holding off Dani Alves now in that right-back position. Throw into the Germans. Hoverders takes it. Nobody's picked up Toni Kroos. Kroos lifts it down the right-hand side to Lahm. First time we've seen the Germans really coming forward. Lahm tucks the ball back into midfield, and Khedira. This is better now from Germany. Schweinsteiger, though, doesn't go forward. Keeps possession, plays it back to Boateng. Little flick from Khedira. Muller's there, over on the right-hand side. And the crowd are jeering because Germany have the ball. Not for long now. Oscar down the left-hand side, and the ball is nicked away from him by Philip Lahm, the German captain. And Brazil have a throw-in on the halfway line. Sensational atmosphere here in Belo Horizonte for the first of these two semi-finals. Germany 0, Brazil 0, and we've played just under 5 minutes of a breathless first half start. Ball back with Julio Cesar in the Brazilian goal. Brazil now building with Luis Gustavo, who knows all about these German players, of course. He plays now with Wolfsburg, but had great success with Bayern Munich. Here's the Bayern Munich centre-back Dante, back again to Luis Gustavo. Scolari's pointing down there. Brazil trying to stay patient here, and the ball is back again with Gustavo's almost playing as one of three centre-backs at the moment. Brazil just keeping it, just biding their time. Then it's nudged into the centre circle and given away by Fernandinho. Poor first touch though by Mesut Ozil, and it comes crashing forward from the left-back Hoveders, and Julio Cesar, well, he might have left that, but he's kept it in, so he can clear for Brazil.
Again, Brazil are snapping into the tackles like they did against Colombia, but also when Germany get it, they're playing a very, very high tempo, closing people down. A very bright start from the Brazilian team.
Why do you think that we all expected Bernard to play left and Hulk right, didn't we? Any reason why they're not doing that?
I think Hulk played really well, especially in the last game. He got the ball and he ran at people. Philip Lahm's not the quickest, not getting any younger.
Ball is out of play, and the Germans, you know, this is very unusual, Danny. I did the game against France in the quarter-final when the Germans just had a stranglehold right from the start, but they're rattled here.
I think this anthem, the atmosphere, gives the Brazilian players such a lift in the first 10-15 minutes. You can almost see the adrenaline pumping out of them, you know, faces, veins, you know, the intensity on their faces. You know, they've got to control that, but that certainly gives them an edge in the first 10-15 minutes in terms of energy, closing people down.
Well, it was 64 years ago to this day that Brazil beat Spain 6-1 to effectively qualify for the 1950 World Cup final, which they lost, of course, to Uruguay. And they've won their last 6 World Cup semi-finals, and here now go Germany dangerously down the right-hand side. Muller is poised on the edge of the area, and it goes, travels a very long way. Ozil's there, Ozil tucks it in, Khedira had a shot which was blocked. Germany's best move. Muller again over on the right-hand side. Suddenly Germany pounce and almost cut through. Muller down the right-hand side, taking on Dante. Still Muller, trying to dink the ball into the area. Boateng is now supporting this latest attack. That's a rather aimless ball into the area, and the free kick is given against Germany, against Klose, for the foul on David Luiz. But Germany then just causing Brazil, for the first time, a few problems.
Well, if Germany can manage to soak up the pressure, which they will do at times, they'll then hit them with counter. Actually, the ball hit Toni Kroos on the backside. It was a ball cut across the area from Ozil. But that's what the Germans will do. They will sit back, they will soak up this pressure, they will take it, they will remain cool, they will remain collected. But then when they get the ball, they have the quality to go and hurt you as well.
The Brazilians building slowly from the back, and Hoveders almost used his arm to control that, but he has the ball, the left back from Schurrle. Looks for Ozil, who's struggling to make an impact here. Maicon takes the ball away from Ozil. Maicon's ball in towards Fred on the edge of the area. Fred brings it down, almost got that through to Oscar. Brilliant defending though by Schweinsteiger for Germany, and a good ball out of defence, but immediately Brazil try and smother Germany in central midfield, but Germany still get going. It's Kroos down the left-hand side. Muller is calling for it over on the far side. The ball is cut back to Khedira, 25 yards out. Khedira on now to Muller. Muller down the German right-hand side, but Marcelo makes a very important interception, and then he's caught by Muller, and the free kick will have to be given. But Muller's a specialist at finding space, and Marcelo's going to have to be really on his game tonight.
Such a contrast in styles, isn't it? Even then, David Luiz came forward, lost the tackle, and the Brazil defence was all over the shop, but they streamed back in numbers. You know, it's all about effort and passion for Brazil. Germany, it's about control. You know, staying cool, keeping possession of the ball. Both teams have been guilty of giving the ball away at the moment, but I think that's understandable. A lot of nerves about.
And I'm struck by how slowly Brazil are building from inside their own half, and then they're looking to try and hit diagonal balls and just looking for some precision to trouble. And there's a bit of an exchange down there between Klose and Luiz, and that's going to be a free kick to Brazil. David Luiz is now really taken over from Neymar as the poster boy here. His face was all over the front pages of the papers this morning, and he takes a free kick, and that's an interesting one towards Hulk over on the far side. Hulk reaches for it, doesn't control it. Across comes Philip Lahm. Hulk trying to turn away from the German captain. Hulk still supported by Marcelo, and that move has broken down, and the Germans are breaking, and Khedira's on the ball, and the Brazilians haven't cut it out. And now Thomas Muller for Germany. Really good counter-attack here. Khedira has a chance to put it in towards Klose. Instead has to settle for a corner kick. This is Germany's first corner But remember, with people like Hummels down there, they can be very dangerous.
I don't want to put the mockers on it, but it looks like it's shaping up to be a really entertaining game, doesn't it? Brazil clearly trying to isolate the fullbacks, hit diagonals over the top for Bernard and Holt to run to. Germany quite happy to soak up the pressure, plan the counter-attack.
Corner kick to Germany. All eyes may be on Hummels, who scored that goal against France. In goes the corner kick, travels a very long way and it's gone in. And that man has done it again, Thomas Muller. Nobody picked him up at the far post. Muller wrapped his right leg around it, and this specialist in tournament football, Thomas Muller, maybe the key man in this German side, has stunned Belo Horizonte. He's given the Germans the lead after 10 minutes. Brazil 0, Germany 1.
Disaster almost for Brazil. We're on the front foot, on top, the ball comes in. Nobody at all is marking Muller. I think it's David Luiz. He's lost his man. He's got a little bit wrapped up in his first 10 minutes. He's had a couple of challenges. Hasn't picked his man up. Muller, just a little bit of movement, just pulled off the shoulder. And, well, a very, very simple finish. 5 goals in from now. But that's David Luiz. Wrapped up, you know, he was chasing down a minute ago. He had a clash with Klose. That's what we talked about. He has to remain disciplined. The emotion and adrenaline has got a little bit too much for him. He's just lost concentration.
Well, I think it was said during the build-up to this game that Thiago Silva helps to protect David Luiz. He's no partner tonight, but now can Brazil respond down that left-hand side with Hulk? Hulk challenged by Boateng, and that's going to be a goal kick for Germany. Well, if you've been with us from the start, you'll have gathered that it was an alien atmosphere here for the German side, but now they've scored that goal, they're really going to settle into the semi-final.
It'll take all the pressure off the Germans, but I think now Brazil have to keep doing what they're doing and start attacking, and at every opportunity, you know, this crowd will get behind them all the way through the game. But like we said, contrasting styles. Germany, cool as you like, one chance, bang, back of the net goal.
He's a phenomenal talent, Thomas Muller, the man, of course, who really undid England at the last World Cup. He's now scored 5 goals at this World Cup. He's one behind Rodriguez, the Colombian, and, well, Brazil have been caught. And it was a goal to really distress Luis Felipe Scolari, because it was so basic, so straightforward, from the corner kick, from the set piece, and it really shouldn't have happened. So Julio Cesar clears. So all that early exuberance here has been, in a sense, quashed by that German goal. Can the Brazilians now come back again? They haven't found themselves in this position at the tournament, as that's an aimless ball from Luiz, and that's straight through to Neuer once more. And I'm not surprised to see Scolari down there trying to just sort a few things out.
Well, they clearly had a game plan, which was to use diagonal balls to get in behind the fullbacks. But David Luiz...
Ball headed on by Klose to Muller. He doesn't take it cleanly, though, and Luiz steps in. I'll bring back Danny again in a moment, as Luiz now strides forward to try and redeem the error. Ball down the left-hand side to play in Hulk. Fred is steaming in the area. Hulk is there. The drag back, though, has only gone to a German player, and Lahm will clear and find the man who's always in space, Muller, over on the right-hand side, the goal scorer here. Muller thinks he was fouled, and the referee agrees.
Again, concentration. You know, David Luiz, we've seen how energetic he gets. We've seen the passion in his face. Even at the moment, he's trying to be everywhere, running all over the shop. I already said that, you know, when they break, the Brazilian defence looks disorganised. You know, they all run back in numbers. There's no real authority there. And, you know, David Luiz, the emotion just got to him, lost concentration for a split second. Thomas Muller, 10 goals now in World Cup football. He's probably got 2 World Cups left as well. He's probably going to break that record of 15 goals, isn't he?
Well, I'm sure you're right, Danny. Of course, Klose is hoping to do that tonight. He's on 15 with Ronaldo. If there was any self-doubt about these Brazilians losing Neymar and Thiago Silva, well, surely that's increased here now following that goal from Thomas Muller to give Germany a 1-0 lead. You're listening to 5 Live from the first of the semi-finals. Much for Brazil to do now. Marcelo can't go forward, and the German side look an altogether now more settled outfit down there after a rather torrid opening. The ball is with Hulk for Brazil, and I'm not quite sure what he's trying to do. He dinked the ball down the right-hand side, but Bernard had come in from the touchline, and that's gone out of play. And, well, the Brazilians need a pick-me-up here. It's a throw-in to Germany, and interestingly now they're just calming things down as well. They have the goal. Long way to go, though, still in the game. And the throw-in is taken towards Klose, and there's appeal for handball, and it's given by the referee Free kick is quickly taken by Kroos. Nobody picked up Khedira. The Brazilians just a little slack at times with their marking. Kroos now. A challenge came in from Bernard, and it was rugged. And it's a free kick to Germany short of the halfway line.
I think the Germans going to go down for the free kicks at any opportunity. Any time a challenge comes in, they're going to ground, and I think they're trying to say to the referee, look, you cannot keep allowing this to go on. Again, that's a clear ploy after what happened in the last Brazilian game.
I mean, what would have really upset Schurrle here was that it was just a straightforward corner kick, and they would have spent a lot of time as now Germany move towards the penalty area, but Luiz is there. They presumably would have done all of their blackboard homework. They would have identified Hummels in particular as a danger, and in the end nobody picked up Thomas Muller, and he wrapped the ball home for Germany with his right foot. And now Gustavo and Maicon trying to energise Brazil. Maicon for Fernandinho near side. Down the line we haven't seen much of Bernard, but that's a decent ball now for Maicon. Fred's in the area. Maicon can't get the ball though in. It was blocked by Hoverders, and Özil still struggling to make an impact down this left-hand side, and the ball is out of play for a German throw-in once more. We've played 16 minutes of the first half here in Belo Horizonte, and the hosts are up against it. Germany lead through Muller's goal.
Very disappointing goal from Brazilian's point of view. Sometimes we saw with like James Rodriguez score an absolute wonder goal. You can't do an awful lot about that at times, but from a corner, a set piece where a player loses concentration, loses his marker, that's stoppable, that is preventable, and Schurrle will be absolutely furious with David Luiz.
Good ball from Oscar now to Hulk, and now Marcelo cuts into the penalty area. Driving run for Marcelo. He's gone down under the challenge from Lahm, looking for a penalty. Referee has given a corner kick only, and one or two players square up on the edge of the 6-yard area.
No penalty for me. Philip Lahm, I think he's going to struggle in this game with a pace. Players running at him, we've seen that, and I think the Brazilians are going to try and exploit that at times. But he dived in, tackled from behind. For me, clearly won the ball without seeing the replay. Right decision from the referee.
Oscar threaded the ball through initially. He has to play well tonight if Brazil are going to get into the World Cup final. Corner kick to Brazil over on the far side. There are words now between the referee and Marcelo and also Boateng.
But we did see it in the first game, didn't we? You know, the referees come under all sorts of pressure from the home crowd. Just seen it on the replay. Dead right. Fantastic challenge from Philip Lahm, but he did get done with pace. Now,
Germany scored from a corner, but this is a really poorly delivered corner by Brazil, and they find themselves back on the halfway line now with Maicon. Germany leading 1-0 on 5 Live. A great ball, though, now from Marcelo to find Oscar inside the area. Oscar turns, that's been lifted up in the air by Hummels, the German defender. Oscar jumping again. Luiz is supporting this latest attack. There'll always be danger, though, when Germany try and counter-attack, looking for the flick-ons from the likes of Klose and Muller, and now Brazil look to Marcelo. The only thing that Joachim Löw maybe will want more from is maybe Özil down this left-hand side. The game is passing him by at the moment, but he won't mind. The scoreline at least is in his favour. Most of the German danger is coming over on the right-hand side, and now Muller picks up the ball once more. Thomas Muller trying to thread the ball through for Kroos. Now can the Brazilians counter-attack? Little Bernard on the halfway line, maybe running into trouble, invited the challenge, looked as if he was fouled by Khedira. Referees played advantage. Marcelo for Brazil, plenty of options. Oscars, though, disappointingly from the home side, played the ball back. Marcelo again is rampaging forward and then loses his way, and now he's out of position. And this is the problem. Muller is in space over on the far side, and when Marcelo goes forward, they have to cover. And they didn't. And fortunately for Brazil, the ball to Muller wasn't very good. It was too high for Muller to control. But that is a problem for them. Somebody does need to cover when Marcelo makes these runs forward.
It's incredibly gung-ho, isn't it, from Brazil at the moment. They get the ball, they're running at people, chasing forward, they're leaving themselves exposed at the back at the times. And if Germany can keep themselves cool under pressure, Brazil could get hit quite easily on the counter-attack.
Well, because Muller is one of the best players in the world at exploiting exactly that kind of scenario. And now a ball from Dante. And Marcelo's loving to go forward here, but his problems are when he's having to defend. He's won a throw-in over on the far side. This is where the likes of Gustavo have to come back in particular, and maybe Fernandinho when Marcelo decides to drive forward. Gustavo again, Germany leading 1-0. Gustavo finding Luiz. And now Oscar just inside the German half. Fred hasn't had much to feed off so far. Maicon near side the Brazilian right. Good ball onto Oscar, though doesn't control it. Germany looking to try and counter-attack. Schweinsteiger, who's just sitting in front of the back four. looking to release Özil down this near side. Özil kept it in and tries to get away from Luiz, who just gets his body in the way and gives the ball back to his goalkeeper, Julio César, who now clears, none too effectively. Bernard comes in and then just gives the ball away back to the German midfield, and that German midfield now starting to assert itself. Ball played down the centre, lovely flick to Miroslav Klose. Klose, though, on the edge of the area, is outnumbered by yellow shirts. Julio César gets the back pass and then can only find touch with his clearance.
All a little bit panicky in that Brazilian defence when Germany get the ball in decent possession. And I said, this is almost what we expected from the start. Brazil frantic at times, chasing all over the place. Germany playing very, very cool. They are using all the tactical nous that they have.
Germany leading 1-0 and moving towards the midway point of the first half. Now Boateng's got a lot of space, the defender. Boateng now up towards the edge of the area and back again to Boateng. Again, that man Muller is waiting. Khedira has it. Little wrestling match with Bernard. This is danger here, though, as the shot is driven in then low and without any power from Klose. But the Germans are starting to create positions here to trouble Scolari's side, and there is much to sort out defensively. The ball is now down below us with Fred, who finds Maicon. Maicon's going to have to hold this because there's nobody really in an advanced position. Oscar helps him out on the halfway line. Oscar to Fernandinho. In comes a snapping challenge from Kroos. Brazilians keep it. And now Luiz hits one of those diagonal balls to the far side of the field. It rears up at Marcelo, and he's done very well to keep it in. Now Hulk trying to shake off the defenders. Hulk played it forward towards Fred, but the Germans are defending well, and now here they go again down the right-hand side, and once more galloping down the right is Muller. Brazilians, Gustavo trying to come back. Ball played in by Muller, but at the near post it was cleared for a throw-in over on the far side. 1-0 to Germany.
I think Brazil are going to have to change something. They're too cavalier at the moment. They're going forward. Marcelo is charging down that left-hand side, but when they give it away, they're just getting hit on the counter-attack.
And Fernandinho's completely missed that ball, and Toni Kroos has got it. It's gone into the area to Muller, and there's a chance for Klose. Great save from César, but Klose's there! Second time round to break Ronaldo's record. Against all teams, he's done it against Brazil in the semi-final. His 16th goal in World Cup finals. It's a new record. It gives Germany a 2-0 lead, and is there any way back now for the hosts?
Brazil at times, defence has been an absolute shambles. Players all over the place. A square ball played into the middle. Fernandinho took his eye off it. It should have been cut out. It wasn't. And then when the ball came in, a little 1-2 on the edge of the box. Klose, Muller has the first chance. It's a decent save, but it comes straight back out to Klose. It just tucks it away. Very, very simple finish in the end. But Brazil all over the shop, clearly missing Thiago Silva.
A moment of history, a Brazilian World Cup record broken in this semi-final against them by a German player. It's the halfway point of the first half. Germany lead 2-0, and here's Ian Dennis.
Thank you, Mike. Just said to Mark Purgac before taking over the commentary duties, Bloemfontein. Every time Germany are going forward, I can't help but think of Bloemfontein. I think every English fan who was in that stadium was hurt as the ball is over the top towards Bernard, and haunted by the way that Germany, how ruthless they were. But the same thing is happening here. They've got the goal in front before the second goal, and they're picking Brazil off. And it's no surprise to see them get the second, and I won't be surprised if they win 3 or 4.
Well, it's been a little bit too easy for Germany going forward at the moment, but I said before the game, all the passion, all the fire in the bellies. But the Germans, as we know, have ice in their blood, are very calm under pressure, clinical.
Lahm is forward on the right-hand side. Muller's missed it. Kroos with a shot. There's the third goal. Fiercely struck. Low, left-footed. César had no chance. And Germany now lead Brazil 3-0. And in a stadium that is soaked in yellow, a black cloud looms large in Belo Horizonte.
Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable. Just looking at some of the faces of the Brazilian players, we get close-ups on the monitors, the fans. They are in shock, deep, deep shock. Again, it was a simple goal that should have been cut out. It was Lahm's cross. Muller missed the first opportunity. It was pretty much unmarked. It came to Toni Kroos at the far side of the box and just drove it in at the near post. Muller completely unmarked. Kroos completely unmarked. Brazil 3-0 down. Devastating.
There is a hum around the stadium, but the Brazilian balloons have had those balloons popped, with the exception of a large chunk of white of the German support away to our right-hand side, who are jumping up and down. In fact, they're threatening again. Here is Khedira. Khedira back to Kroos. It's a second goal. Brazil are capitulating, and the Germans are romping their way through to the final in the Maracanaço. Brazil 0, Germany 4. Unbelievable.
Almost speechless. We've just seen a little child in the crowd crying his eyes out. We never expected this, and after the start, where Brazil started quite well, they've just been hit on the counter-attack time and time again. Brazil have gone completely at the moment. This could end up 7 or 8 in a World Cup semi-final. Brazil at the moment have got no answer to this at all.
They're a shambles. They're an absolute shambles at the back, Brazil, and Germany are taking full advantage and some. And now all of a sudden we've got a scenario where Brazil, as the host nation, have just got to damage limitation. Supporters are in tears around us here in Belo Horizonte. Unbelievable. When I said that I could see Germany winning 3 or 4, I didn't necessarily mean within 4 minutes of picking up the commentary mic that they would go and add 2 more goals. Shell-shocked. The nation of Brazil is absolutely shell-shocked.
An example of how clinical Germany have been. I think they've had 4 shots on target and they've scored 4 goals. They might have had 5 shots on target, but they have been exceptional. Clinical, efficient. You know, Schweinsteiger sits in front of the back 4. All that passion, all that flair from the Brazilians in the first few minutes. You know, well, I'm trying to find David Luiz now on the pitch. He should be playing centre-half, and he stood halfway up the pitch in midfield. This was always going to be a problem. Once they conceded that first goal, their heads have now dropped. They are all over the place. Big Phil on the touchline, throwing his hands in the air. You have to say, 4-0, that's it, game over. And it really could be a case of how many the Germans want to score now.
Throw from Marcelo, chested off by Fred. Ball played back in. Bernard is coming forward now. Bernard then towards Hulk. Maicon on the overlap on the right-hand side if he wants him. Tried to flick the ball with his left foot in field. He's collected that loose ball by Fernandinho. He'll run on this right-hand side. Yellow shirts and blue shorts. Playing from left to right as we look. Plays it back towards Maicon. Right-hand side. Crowded out by 3 German players. And Humiliation will be the one who'll just clear it out of play. And it'll be a Brazilian throw. Maicon to take it. Here is Hulk. Right corner of the penalty area. Hulk. Caught by Humiliation. No. Hulk goes to ground too easily, and that says the referee is a goal kick. Well, Rafa Honigstein back in our studio in Rio. What do you make of this scoreline? 4-0 to Germany.
It's hard to believe, really, especially if you consider Germany had such a shaky start. They looked nervous in the first 5 minutes. They gave the ball away. Brazil took the game to them. Everything changed after the Muller goal. Brazil suddenly, I think, felt the danger of getting knocked out, and Germany, the confidence just took them, and every time they went forward they scored.
3 goals in 4 minutes. They were blitzed with Brazil. We'll have further discussions, I'm sure, with Rafa at half-time. Germany 4, Brazil 0.
Not normally one for statistics, Ian, but again, you know, percentage of play. Brazil 65% almost of the play.
They're in again here, Germany. This is Khedira. He's got options. He's pulled the ball back to Özil. Here is Khedira again, and Khedira strokes the ball in right-footed. It's the 5th goal for Germany. It's truly astonishing in Belo Horizonte. Germany are running riot. Brazil 0. Germany 5. We haven't even played half an hour.
Defence has capitulated. Really don't know what to say. But the whole stadium is almost just silence in shock. It's just incredible. That was so easy. Özil, you know, just dropping the ball back. Khedira could have shot first time, no. Waits for Özil, gets the ball back on the second one, slots the ball home. I really don't know what to say. You know, I think the romantics in this wanted Brazil to be in the final, in the Maracanaço, maybe against Argentina, but fair play to the Germans. They have been exceptional. Apart from that first maybe 10-15 minutes or so where they came up for a little bit of pressure, they remained calm. Neuer didn't really have a save to make in that time. but they have been clinical, exceptional when going forward on the counter-attack, and they have put this Brazilian side, they've made them look defensively worse than schoolboys.
My worry now inside the stadium is that this could really turn quite ugly in terms of the atmosphere, because wherever you look, particularly away to our right-hand side now, there are more and more stewards in their luminous orange jackets, and Brazil trailing by 5-0. If they were to concede more goals, not only would it be a national humiliation, but I think then it could quickly turn from that carnival atmosphere to something a little bit more sinister. Tim Vickery is also in our studio alongside Rafa Honigstein. Tim.
Yeah, you do worry about this. You worry about the way the crowd are capable of turning on their own players. I knew some of the players from 1950, a great side who lost 2-1 in the last few minutes to Uruguay. They were never, ever able to forget it. One of them told me years afterwards he was still worried about people coming at him with a knife because he lost that game. Now, Dano, you mentioned there, if there's more goals, it might be a humiliation. I think after the third goal, we are already in humiliation territory. Defensive line for Brazil, an absolute shambles. And if you were giving points out of 10 so far, you might give Fernandinho 1 for putting his shirt on the right way around. An absolute shambolic performance from the man who's supposed to protect the centre-backs. They're all over the place defensively. I think you've picked up very well on the fear for the atmosphere.
Here is Lahm. Lahm pulls the ball back. Kroos takes a deflection, goes wide. They are exposing Brazil time and time and time again. And it's a corner kick to Germany, 5-0.
Every time Germany come forward, they look like scoring.
Corner's taken short on the left-hand side. Here is Özil. This now is Schweinsteiger. Schweinsteiger with a short diagonal ball to Khedira. Back to Boateng. Every German player is inside the Brazilian half. Lahm with a cross, takes a slight deflection. Fred, who's been anonymous, is back doing some defensive work. And bearing in mind that Germany scored 5 before the half hour, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that the biggest margin of victory in a World Cup is 9 goals. You wouldn't rule out, bearing in mind that they've scored 5 before the half hour, how many more then will they add between now and the 90-minute mark?
I'm sure Klose will be thinking, oh, how many more can I add? Thomas Muller as well, how many more can I get? You know, closer to those records as well. David Luiz has just scythed into the back of Muller, and that's also another worry. We know that these Brazilians are a little bit hot-headed at times. It could spill over, and I wouldn't surprise me at some point if a Brazilian loses cool and gets a red card.
It's a nightmare for Brazil. It is a nightmare where they're 5-0 down. We've got 13 minutes to go to half-time. It is a remarkable scoreline here on 5 Live. I would think that tomorrow's semi-final would be a lot tighter in Sao Paulo. Argentina against Holland. You'll get a 2-hour build-up ahead of that 9 o'clock kick-off from Sao Paulo, and of course Sunday's final in the Maracanaço. A week ago I sat in the Copacabana as here is Khedira, and it's Kroos. Closed down by Fernandinho, trying to thread that ball through towards Lahm. And I said with Jonathan Overend that I could see Germany picking off Brazil, but I never, and I don't think anybody envisaged this scenario, and certainly this scoreline, Danny Mills.
Never in a million years. You'd have never gone out and put, you know, I don't think you've even put maybe 4-0, you know, as a bet over the course of the whole game. You know, this is likely to end up 6, 7, you know, as you said, 9 is the record. Would be incredible. Germany have just been stereotypical, and they've been German, they've been efficient, they've been clinical.
Here is Klose. Klose around the man over on that far side. It's Muller. He looked to go through the middle towards Khedira, and in fact they even had Özil on the left-hand side in their red and black horizontal striped shirts. Germany are going forward at every opportunity and look like they're going to score at every opportunity.
It is unbelievable how that the Brazilian defence is all over the shop. David Luiz, supposed to be the marshal, was hoping that he was going to step up to the plate. Not at all. Luis Gustavo in the middle, Fernandinho, been non-existent. I talked about that really important square, that block of 4 players the two central midfield players, the two central defenders, that's where you get hurt. And that has been incredibly weak for Brazil.
Lahm to Muller, Muller in field to Özil. Challenge comes in from Fernandinho. Kroos will pick up that ball. Klose just prods it back then towards closer to Kroos, and then the ball goes out, and it'll be Marcelo who'll play it forward towards Bernard. It's gone completely flat in Belo Horizonte. Bernard then towards Fred. We know that this is a Brazil side with their limitations, as Hulk triggers the offside trap, and that'll be a free kick. And the other thing to remember as well is that this is a Brazilian side, as Mike Ingham has pointed out, that are unbeaten at home since August 2002. Now that was a slightly strange game because they just won the World Cup, playing against Paraguay in August, but since then it is a run of 42 successive home matches where they're undefeated on Brazilian soil. It's 39 years since they last lost a competitive fixture at home in the semi-final of the Copa America. But to lose in this manner, and there could yet be further goals. Well, they talk about the Maracanaço blow when they lost the final in 1950 to Uruguay. This is a hammer blow here in 2014. Out towards Lahm on that far side. Germany level with the penalty area. Marcelo will not keep the ball in play as he tries to hook it clear. It's a throw to Germany.
Well, the game's over, you know, simple as that now. I mean, looking around, Brazilian fans clearly do not know what to make of this. It's been... I've never seen a game like it, of this magnitude. You know, to be so overwhelmed by the opposition is absolutely staggering.
Here is Germany coming forward once again, trying to thread that ball through towards Klose. Only cleared as far as Lahm on that far side for Germany. He'll go in field. Kroos, who's on a hat-trick, waits. Fernandinho stumbles. They're toying with... Germany are toying with Brazil. It's meant to be the semi-final of a World Cup. And 179 seconds between the second and fourth goal.
Brazil, they've gone. Simple as that. Luis Gustavo has just put in a crude challenge on Thomas Muller. I think we might start to see a little bit more of that. It's almost too late to try and restore some pride. We talked about before the game that, you know, Germany might be the slight favourites. If Brazil were to lose, the pressure's off because Neymar wasn't there. But we were thinking of maybe a 2-1 or a 1-0, something like that. This isn't getting beaten. This is being humiliated.
Annihilated as well for a Brazilian side that are reeling here in Belo Horizonte. 5 Live, your World Cup station for 2014. The second semi to come tomorrow. The final on Sunday. We already know that Germany will be there as the ball is clipped over the top, and that will go out of play from Özil for a goal kick to Brazil. And we've still got 7 minutes to go to half-time. I'd like to hear the reaction from the Brazilian supporters at half-time. Just remove the left headphone.
I'll tell you what it'll be boos. Simple as that, for every single Brazilian player. Bizarre, they started the game on the front foot. You know, it was a little bit gun-ho, a little bit frantic in their play, but they started to have a bit of a go. But then once Germany got a little bit of a foothold in the game, overcame that pressure, if you like, it was so clinical going forward, superb on the counter-attack. And it really is very, very difficult to try and explain how good the Germans have been. Schweinsteiger's just epitomises everything about the Germans. He's just sat there, controlled the game, hardly given the ball away. Absolutely superb.
And also how bad the Brazilians have been.
Well, defensively, it's been an absolute nightmare for them. They've been all over the shop. David Luiz, I think there was a clip beforehand, I said, you know, often plays centre-back forward. You know, he goes on these mazy runs, that's brilliant. He gets away with it when Thiago Silva is that rock along beside him. Dante's not good enough to do that role. He's relatively inexperienced. He's only got 12 caps before today. At the back, you know, Maicon is okay. Marcelo was bombing down the left-hand side, but leaving himself very, very exposed. And the Germans just have that control, that self-belief. Give us the ball, you know what, and we will control the game, and eventually we will score. And they scored 5 in such a short space of time.
If we were in Spain now, they'd have the white hankies out. The only white things that are being waved at the minute are the German fans celebrating high up on that right-hand side, whether it's the shirts that they've taken off, but they're being swung around their heads. Mike, I know you've got a programme coming up, haven't you, where you're looking back at 8 World Cup tournaments on Friday at 9 and Sunday at 1. You've covered 8 tournaments, well, this is your 8th World Cup. What are your thoughts at this stage?
Well, the only thing, Ian, that I can think of that's comparable in a first half of a World Cup game, and I'm just watching Germany come forward again, the only thing I can think of that shocked me to the extent that tonight has was when North Korea went into a 4-0 lead against Portugal in the quarter-final in England in 1966. But then, of course, Portugal had Eusebio, and at 3-0 they went up, and then Eusebio came back to score 4, and Portugal went through. But in all the World Cups I've covered, no, nothing like this in the first half. This is absolutely unprecedented.
Marcelo over towards Bernard on that far side. Stopped by Germany, who are leading 5-0. Muller with the first, Klose with the second. He has now broken Ronaldo's record. He's the all-time leading scorer in the World Cup as Hulk tries to chip a ball through. Kroos has got 2 and Khedira strokes in the 5th. Just worth reiterating that programme as Mike reflects on his World Cup years. Friday at 9 o'clock and Sunday at 1. The final, of course, in the Maracanaço, and tomorrow Argentina against Holland from 9 o'clock.
Just to get that straight again, it was 3-0, I think North Korea went up, but it was dramatic.
Brazil looking for a consolation. Oscar with a shot charged down. Cannons away over towards that far side. People are numb inside this stadium. I think even the neutrals are too, because nobody expected this. It's incredible.
To put it into perspective, England beat Moldova 5-0. You know, this is Germany beating Brazil in Brazil 5-0 within half an hour of the game. I just really... It is, you're right, it is everybody is almost numb, you know, with sort of like, is this surreal? You know, is this a dream? Is this a nightmare? It was a complete nightmare for the Brazilians, but they've just been ripped apart. It can't get enough. Defensively, awful. Started with David Luiz, lost concentration, all that passion. You know, got himself a little bit hecked up, a little bit worked up, looking at the ball, took his eye off Muller, and that was it. Once that first goal went in, you just saw the Germans grow in confidence, grow in belief, and they've just ripped this Brazilian team apart, and now it's a training ground exercise.
The other thing to say, Danny, is if they concede again, it will equal their record defeat, which was against Uruguay in the South American Championships back in September of 1920. Brazil don't lose at home. They certainly don't lose in this manner.
Well, if they don't concede again, I will be flabbergasted. I think if they don't concede again, it'll be just as much a surprise as they are being 5-0 down now.
Well, a lot will depend, I suppose, on how Germany then approach the second half, won't it?
But even still, Germany, you know, even if it's played at walking pace, they will create 1 or 2 chances. And have we seen so far, they don't need many chances. You know, they've probably had 6 or 7 chances. They've scored 5 goals.
Brazil are at walking pace, and here is Hulk. Hulk goes past a couple of half-hearted challenges. Fernandinho slides in. 2 minutes to go to half-time. This will be one of the longest nights in the history of Brazilian football, because every minute is going to seem like an hour. Trailing 5-0 in the semi-final as a host nation against Germany, and totally and utterly humiliated. 90 seconds remain of normal time. It's flat. Hardly surprising
I
inside
wonder
here.
how long those Brazilian players will remain in the dressing room after the game. It could be a couple of hours, because I think, you know, when this bus leaves, we saw the amount of people clapping the bus as it came in. That ain't going to be happening on the way out.
Marcelo with the free kick, flags up on this near-hand side. Well, the Germans are celebrating. There are 12,000 bars, do you know, in Belo Horizonte. They won't be filled tonight with Brazilians. There might be the, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 Germans who are inside this stadium here in Belo Horizonte. In fact, I would imagine that most of those 12,000 bars will have closed early. The shutters will be up, and they might not want to open up those shutters, just like they might not want to open up the curtains tomorrow morning. Such fervour that we've seen in Brazil, football-mad nation, where football is at the very soul of this country, but they will be hurting like no other tonight. We're about to see how much added on time at half-time, but a Brazilian team that are on their knees
What does Big Phil do at half-time now?
Well,
He can't change it really and say, well, let's go for it, because they did that and they've been ripped apart.
Marcelo coming forward away from Fred, and Neuer will be there, and Neuer just plays it early. 1 minute of added on time, which we're now into.
But if the players don't have a go, they'll be accused of, being no pride in it. I think it's now almost an impossible team talk for Scolari. Whatever he does, whatever he says to these players, they've got to come out and play with some pride in the second half. But it almost has to accept defeat and just say, look, the game's over, lads, you've lost it. You've blown your chance, of becoming absolute legends in this country. Not only are you not going to become legends, you are going to become villains for the rest of your lives.
The headline will be written, however the script to the story is still not finished yet, because it could get a lot worse for Brazil. Trailing 5-0, you might be able to hear the strains of the German fans already celebrating. Ball from Luiz. Hulk will not keep that ball in play. That will be a goal kick.
Thiago Silva and Neymar, I wonder what they're feeling right now. Disappointed not to be playing, but I tell you what, there'll be part of them thinking, you know what, I am so glad I am not out there.
Boos and jeers, hardly surprising, from the Brazilian fans to greet the half-time whistle, which is an incredible scoreline in Belo Horizonte of Brazil 0, Germany 5. Brazil trudge off the field. High fives for the Germans, but this is certainly one of those occasions to say I was there, Danny Mills.
Unbelievable. I can see half these Brazilians not coming back for the second half. A bit like the team haven't turned up in the first half. I think the fans might just go home, drown their sorrows. We're seeing pictures on the monitors in front of us, people in floods of tears. This will hurt them more than anything else. It's just... It really is unbelievable. Speechless. We never saw anything like this coming. You wouldn't expect this in a group game, would you, Mark?
It's our job to talk out loud, as we're reminded all the time, but it's hard to know what to say. It is quite the most extraordinary sporting thing I think any of us have ever seen. 5-0 down at half-time.
Chris Waddle the other day said this is the worst Brazilian side he's ever seen. But I bet you even Chris wouldn't have thought of this scoreline. I mean, it is. You're having to pick your jaw off the floor.
We talked about, didn't we, that they might get beaten. It might be 2-1, it might be 3-1 at worst, maybe. There'll be the excuse that Neymar wasn't there, Thiago Silva wasn't there. And we thought, well, OK, you can see this going either way. Germans, we know, are very, very good and cool and calm and collected. Lots of passion from the Brazilians. We saw that in the first 10, 15 minutes. And then 5-0 down in a World Cup semi-final. Just absolutely staggering.
The last team to score 5 in a World Cup semi-final were Brazil, ironically, in 1958. And I think, as you mentioned, Ian, they're going to lose in a competitive match at home for the first time since 1975, when Peru beat them. But to be beaten in this manner, to be absolutely humiliated in this manner. Mike Ingham, what are your thoughts before we bring in Julio Gomez, who's very bravely come back to speak to us? Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm trying to put it into a World Cup context, but actually, Mark, I'm putting it into a football context. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like this before. Not even in the Premier. I remember Manchester United running riot one day against Arsenal, and Arsene Wenger sitting just behind us, by the way. I think they were 5-5. But this is the semi-final of the World Cup, and the only thing I can think of that had the same effect on me as a teenager really was watching that North Korean team at Goodison Park go into a 3-0 lead, and then of course Eusebio just said, I'm not having this, and took over. But I mean, there's been all this talk about Pelé in 1962 with Neymar being injured, and of course Pelé was injured in 1962. Brazil still went on to win the World Cup, but of course that Brazilian team had got the likes of Garrincha, Zagallo, Didi and Vava, as well as Amarillo, who came in. So it's not comparable.
A Brazilian lady we just saw on the monitor is on the phone, and she's in absolute floods of tears. Julio, thank you for coming back. Speak if you can.
Look, this is a shocking moment, and I think, and I'm almost alone in this thought here in Brazil. Brazilian football needs it. Brazilian football needs this humiliation at home, so we change everything. everything is being done wrong in this country when it comes to football. Youth football, local league, the way players behave, the way players are trained, the way coaches don't go abroad to take information, exchange information and all that. We sit in 5 titles and always thought it would sort out our problems. When if a British man comes, not to me but to a Brazilian friend, saying, oh, you should be doing this and that, a Brazilian would reply, well, I've got 5 stars in my jersey and you've got 1. End of discussion. This is not how it goes. Football evolved and Brazilian football needs to evolve. The only thing I really hope is that this humiliation changes things here in Brazil. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I truly hope it does.
Everything you've just said about Brazilian football is what we say about English football. You realise that? The way that the players are coached at youth level, they got 5. You've got to say
at least in the semi-final.
Yeah.
We only made it 2 games in.
We have the players. Yeah, we have too many people. We have 200 million people in a country where the only thing people do when the kids play ball. So obviously you always have good players, and they will always go to. This is an European team. This is Brazil, Europe. I mean, they all play there. They all learned how to play football there. You see, it has nothing to do with Brazilian football. So we have to change things here in this country. If we don't, we're still going to win 1 World Cup here or there, 1 semi-final here and there, because obviously the players are good. But I hope this shocking moment will change things here in the country.
Let me just ask you one very, very briefly. This is a serious question. Do you expect trouble here tonight?
No, I don't.
No,
I just don't. I expect tears.
Well, there are plenty of them already. Just Mark Chapman, let me read you this tweet, which is quite funny. Alfonso says, well, at least when any team gets a drubbing this season, the fans could truthfully sing, it's just like watching Brazil.
Well, let me, via Amy Lawrence, read one back to you. Mark, you mentioned not having seen anything like it, maybe not even in the Premier League. But, Amy?
Yeah, there's a tweet here from Red Action Gooners who found a tweet from earlier on in the tournament saying this is like watching Arsenal in the 12:45 a.m. kickoff.
I saw that as well, and I did think it was quite similar. It was like watching Arsenal at Stamford Bridge or at Anfield.
We'll be back with Mark and the team there shortly. Amy and Tim Vickery and Rafael Honigstein are in the studio here in Rio with us this evening. Rafael Honigstein, who couldn't relax maybe until it was 4-0, and he sat now watching the replays.
You're not going to get any sense out of him. He's just watching the goals.
He's watching the replays on the monitor that we have in this studio. Can you talk in amongst the grinning?
I'll try. It's it's just so hard to relate to a game which turned on 1 or 2 minutes. I thought Germany started badly. For Brazil were up for it. They looked sharp. They pressed. Germany couldn't keep the ball. I think Mesut Özil, the first 4 balls that went to him, he lost all of them. There was no rhythm, nothing. Then there was this key challenge, you remember, from Philip Lahm?
Yeah. Yes.
Which very rightly was given
Marcelo
as a
appeal for a penalty, but it was a cracking tackle.
As a corner, I think. And from the corner on the other side, Germany scored, and then the game opened up completely. And Brazil collapsed. And I think if ever you needed a demonstration of the importance of psychology, even at this level, this is the game. Because they completely lost themselves on that pitch.
Tim Vickery.
I think this shows that confidence is never an abstract. Confidence always reflects your own perception of your ability to carry out a certain task. And yes, Brazil, as they did in the Confederations Cup, very quick out the blocks, full of brio. But the test of a team always is when you go a goal down. And as soon as they went a goal down, the balloon was pricked, and they absolutely fell apart. The defence was Fred Kano and his army. I can't recall seeing a top international side defend worse than Brazil have done. And I thought Julio Gomez in his comments was absolutely magnificent.
That's exactly what you were saying to us.
Yeah, as a Brazil fan, And I feel very sorry for these players, because humiliation plays really big in this part of the world, and these players will live with this humiliation for the rest of their careers. But look, taking the wider view on Brazilian football, this could not possibly be better. In order to change, and Brazilian football is operating so far below its potential, it's untrue. In order to change, they need something like this to stop that arrogance of we've won it 5 times, because that was then. This is now.
Can I just talk about I mean, they touched on it in Belo Horizonte, but our studio at the moment looks out over the Copacabana. It has rained since just before kickoff. Myself and Amy put a couple of pictures on social media to be able to see of it lashing down. So there aren't that many people out there on the beach. As I look out of our window, stretches down the Copacabana towards the Fan Fest, I can see an awful lot of flashing red lights, probably police vehicles. There might be the odd fire engine in there as well. I have to say, they don't look as numerous as they did on the opening night after Brazil beat Croatia and there were protests outside our TV studio. So at this stage, it's probably impossible to guess what the reaction will be at full time, but it would appear that the police are gearing themselves up to make sure that nothing comes down from the Fan Fest towards this end.
Sure, and the reaction, to be honest, no one can really predict, because we've never been in this situation before. And as Julius said, he thinks there'll be more tears than anything else. I agree, but I also think, certainly myself, after our transmission, I'm going home. As a foreigner, I'm keeping my head down tonight.
Right, should we do the same?
Yes, please do.
Let's get a BBC News update, and then we will be back for the second half. Goodness only knows what that is going to bring. As it stands at half-time, Brazil 0, Germany 5 in a World Cup semi-final. Here's Alison Hughes.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet, this is BBC 5 Live.
The most senior civil servant at the Home Office has admitted the department probably destroyed most of its 114 missing files, which could shed some light on historical allegations of child abuse. But Mark Sedwill told the Home Affairs Select Committee there was a record of the names of the files. Keith Vaz is the committee's chairman.
I have asked Mr Sedwill to go back and at the very least look at the list of the titles of the files, so they still retain the names of the files, but they don't have the files themselves. So if he could do that, that will just give us an indication of whether or not they're serious and relevant. But this is a very chaotic department.
Israel has authorised the military to call up 40,000 reservists and says it isn't ruling out a ground invasion of Gaza. The country's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, says Israel is not eager for war, but wants to stop the rocket attacks. Palestinian officials say 15 people have died in Gaza after a day of Israeli air raids. Yolande Nell is in Gaza City.
Well, at the moment, the message is very much one of defiance from the militant groups here in Gaza. We heard volleys of rockets being fired off in the direction of Israel, and we're getting lots of claims coming through from militant groups that they're managing to reach areas that they haven't previously been able to reach.
The leader of a trek to the Arctic, in which a 17-year-old from Salisbury was killed by a polar bear, says he gouged the bear's eyes during the attack. Michael Reed told an inquest he fought the animal when his rifle failed to fire. 2 British men who went to Syria to join rebel fighters have pleaded guilty to terrorism charges. Nahin Ahmed and Yusuf Sawa, both from Birmingham, admitted preparing to carry out terrorist acts. They'll be sentenced in the next few weeks. And the British Chambers of Commerce is warning the Bank of England against a premature rise in interest rates. Manufacturing output fell by 1.3% in May, the first drop in 6 months.
BBC Radio 5 Live, the home of Brazil 2014.
It is the first World Cup semi-final here at Brazil 2014 between the host nation and Germany. Thomas Muller gave the Germans the lead in the 11th minute, and there followed 5 minutes of madness.
Tony Kroos has got it, it's gone into the area to Muller, and there's a chance for Klose. Great save from Cesar, but Klose's there! Second time round to break Ronaldo's record. Against all teams, he's done it against Brazil, and is there any way back now for the hosts?
Lahm is forward on the right-hand side, Muller's missed it, Kroos for the shot! There's the third goal! And in a stadium that is soaked in yellow, a black cloud looms large.
Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable.
Defensive line for Brazil, an absolute shambles. And if you were giving points out of 10 so far, you might give Fernandinho 1 for putting his shirt on the right way round.
Here is Khedira. Khedira back to Kroos. It's the second goal. Brazil are capitulating, and the Germans are romping their way through to the final in the Maracanaço. Brazil 0, Germany 4. Unbelievable. They're in again here, Germany. This is Khedira. He's got options. He's pulled the ball back to Özil. Here is Khedira again, and Khedira strokes the ball in right-footed. Germany are running riot. Brazil 0, Germany 5. We haven't even played half an hour.
In all the World Cups I've covered, this is absolutely unprecedented.
Well, that's what happened in the first half. The teams are out early for the second 45 minutes. I dread to think what the reaction was for the Brazilian players, Mark Pugac, when they came back out.
They got booed, Mark. They got booed. Only about 6 or 7 of them came out. There's an old man clasping a replica of the World Cup, and he's about to capsize in tears. There have been several substitutions from both sides, Mike Ingham, after the worst 45 minutes in Brazilian football history.
Thank you, Mark. I think I said at the start of the game you could feel the tension of the occasion. Actually, you can't now because it's all over, really, but damage limitation maybe for Brazil in the second half. Let me tell you about the changes that Brazil have made. Fernandinho, as suggested by Tim Vickery, really, he's made way for Paulinho, and Enrique's come on for Hulk. We'll just wait and see exactly how he's going to play, where he'll play. I'll give you the revised Brazilian lineup in a moment. And the Germans have also made a change. Mertesacker's come on for Hummels, and you know, maybe if Hummels has got a slight injury or something, they're now going to preserve him for the final. So it's Ramirez who's come on, not Enrique, sorry, Ramirez. So that's more logical because Ramirez can play in that wide position and help out in midfield.
We're just interested, Mike. Paulinho's just come on, put his hands together, looked up to the sky and prayed. We know this is a very, very religious country. You know, they believe in God, they look to God for an awful lot of things. But obviously to get back in this game is even beyond a miracle now. You know, it's just absolutely staggering. And the reaction afterwards is going to be very, very interesting to see what happens.
Well, it's just sad. All around the nation there would have been fireworks ready to go tonight, in the way that they have in this tournament. Each Brazilian goal celebrated with the fireworks, but I know it's raining in Rio, and it really is a complete and utter damp squib here in Belo Horizonte. So this revised Brazilian lineup in the second half, trailing 5-0, is Julio Cesar in goal, Maicon, Luiz Dante and Marcel. We'll just break off here as Paulinho for the first time gets possession by the corner flag. Brazil playing from right to left in this second half. Plays the ball into Ramirez, switched back to Marcelo once more, into the penalty area. Ramirez tried to get a shot in, he shovels it all along the ground, and Mertesacker makes his first contribution. So we've got Paulinho, Gustavo, we've got Ramirez, Oscar, Bernard and Fred. And, well, Bernard hardly got the ball at all in that first half. And yet, if you weren't with us in the first 5 minutes or so, before Thomas Muller scored after 11 minutes, we thought the Germans were rattled. They seemed to be making mistakes, they were giving the ball away. The crowd may be getting at them because it was a wonderful, wonderful start for Brazil in terms of atmosphere. And without really creating very much, I have to say early on, Brazil seemed to have the Germans rattled, but then the goals came flowing in. And the German team is Neuer, Lahm, Boateng, Mertesacker and Hoverdes, Schweinsteiger and Khedira, Muller, Kroos, Özil and Klose. You're listening to 5 Live. We've played 2 minutes of the second half, and it is just really sad now for the host nation. 5 goals in 29 minutes. Bloemfontein revisited in terms of England memories, I remember 4 years ago. And this nation is going to suffer massive withdrawal symptoms, huge hangover tomorrow in particular. 5-0 to Germany, and remember, as Ian Dennis was saying, the record defeat for Brazil is 6-0 in 1920 by Uruguay. The problem I think we identified early on here, though, was you're going to have a fullback like Marcelo rampaging forward in the way that Roberto Carlos used to. In Scolari's team, when Roberto Carlos was going forward, he had people like Cleverson and Gilberto Silva immediately tracking back to help and to cover the back three that they left behind. But that was non-existent, and of course Muller was the perfect man to really exploit that situation. The ball is down the Brazilian right. Maicon's ball in towards Fred. Germany defend. Oscar picks the ball up and then falls easily after the challenge from Boateng. And the ball is back on the halfway line once more with the host nation. Ball played forward, looking for Fred once more. Fred also goes to ground very cheaply there against Mertesacker, and the ball's gone behind for a German goal kick. Neuer to take. Danny?
A lot of empty seats. I think a lot of people either have gone to the bar and drowned in their sorrows. They're not coming back for the second half. But also now Holland and Germany, Holland and Argentina must be looking at this thinking, wow, not only have Germany now got an easy second half, the players will be very, very fresh. They didn't have to work massively hard. Apart from that first 15-minute spell, then it was easy for them. So they are going to be well rested. They'll be very, very fresh for the final. And also, we've seen how devastatingly clinical they are. I think those are Argentina and Holland will be thinking, whoa, yes, we want to get to the final, but we're going to have to go all out and play better than we've ever played to beat this German side.
It no longer feels like a World Cup semi-final. It's 5-0 to Germany, and they were leading 5-0 after 29 minutes of the first half. You're listening to 5 Live. Mertesacker, who's come on to equal Franz Beckenbauer's 103 caps, lifts the ball forward, and then it's uncharacteristically given away by Germany, and Brazil just looking for, I was going to say crumbs of comfort, but nothing will comfort them. Absolutely no consolation at all. David Luiz now crosses the halfway line. Luiz with the ball onto Ramirez, and that pass was misplaced to Marcelo down the left-hand side. Bernard offers his services, the ball goes in, and there's an opportunity maybe for Paulinho, but immediately the Germans smother around Paulinho. Ball lifted into the far post, and Neuer, I think he touched that, but it's been kept in by Özil, and what a great ball out of defence by Mesut Özil. Miroslav Klose, by the way, in the first half has now gone past Ronaldo with his 16 goals at World Cup finals, but Danny's saying now we expect Muller on 10 goals to at least go past that. Ball played up now towards Oscar. Fred lays it to Ramirez. Ramirez shot may find Fred on the edge of the area. He releases Ramirez. Ramirez cut back, diving save from Neuer. Just about the first real save he's had to make. Özil keeps the ball in over on the far side by the corner flag, and then Boateng completes the clearance. And he was caught late as well as he released that ball. But the referee continues the game. Klose dances around a few challenges. Muller's there. It's tight over on the far side. Brazil have the ball again. Lifted forward by Luiz. A header back by Philip Lahm. And Neuer will come out of his area and then lift the ball as far as he can away from his penalty area back into the Brazilian half.
Well, Brazil should have scored then. Ramirez down the right-hand side, got in a really good position. He was played in by Fred, I think it was. Went to cut the ball back across goal for Oscar. But even Ramirez, who wasn't on in the first half, no belief, no conviction about that pass, and a simple push-out, if you like, for Neuer in the end.
5-0 to Germany, early stages of the second half. And just for the record, by the way, I'm going to say that I was disappointed that they didn't at least put a picture of Alfredo Di Stefano up here to show the crowd, because I know he wasn't identified with the World Cup, but he was one of the game's great players, and he sadly passed away yesterday. That should have been recognised here tonight. Here now, Ramirez, ball in the area, saved by Neuer, and nothing is dropping Brazil's way. Nobody there, Fred wasn't there to follow up. Özil having to play as a left back at the moment, and you can understand the Germans in many ways now. It's cruise control for them, isn't it? They know that there's no way back here for the opposition, and they're really just, I don't know how ambitious they're going to be in the second half, Danny.
Well, they won't need to be ambitious at all, but they'll get a couple of chances. It's just where they take them. But bizarrely, Brazil could have scored 2 already. Ramirez got in, then the right-hand side, could have cut the ball back for Oscar, and Oscar should have put that ball away. Simple.
But the only
10 yards from goal.
Only countries to score against Germany in this tournament, the African countries, Algeria and Ghana, but here come Brazil again. But Germany seem to be quite happy to allow them to have the ball. Bernard's in the area. Challenge came in from Muller, and the corner kick is given. A replacement ball immediately thrown to Bernard. We've played 7.5 minutes of the second half. We've now got 2 balls on the field. One is cleared. Bernard will take this corner. Brazil have made 2 changes at half-time. Dante of Bayern Munich making his way to the far post. In goes the corner kick. Neuer gets a really good fist to it. Might drop to Marcelo, who gets in ahead of Özil. Marcelo looking to set up a shot, but Schweinsteiger immediately comes in with a great challenge. And here come the Brazilians once more. Paulinho in the area. Paulinho shot straight at Neuer. Paulinho again. Neuer makes another save and comes to the referee and complains about something.
How good is Manuel Neuer? Fabulous. Paulinho was onside.
Short corner taken. Marcelo over on that far side. Digs the ball back to Maicon. Maicon now taking it forward as far as Özil will allow him, and then there's a misplaced pass from him. So Manuel Neuer, who made that wonderful save against Benzema at the end of the quarter-final, in Rio stands up firm once more for the Germans here tonight.
It's a brilliant double save, Mike. The first one, he stood tall, strong, the ball almost hit him. Came back to Paulinho again, and just a little flick with his left hand, but such a strong arms that he's got. Puts his hand up, and the ball bounces like 30, 40 yards away. Neuer is absolutely immense.
Bernard at least is trying a few flicks down this left-hand side, trying to get the crowd lifted, but it's an impossible job. And now Germany, with a great ball out of defence, find Muller down this right-hand side. In comes Luis Gustavo, and the challenge has been penalised, and it's a free kick to Germany just inside the Brazil half.
Just noting David Luiz, he's gone from centre-half and he's ran 40 yards up the field to try and close down midfield players for Germany.
Now Muller down the German right. Muller's beefy ball to the far side, and I hope this isn't going to sound cruel, but maybe we've seen here tonight where perhaps Jose Mourinho hasn't retained the services of David Luiz as a defender, Danny.
Well, quite possibly, because he wasn't disciplined enough. He lost his concentration, got wrapped up in the moment. And you can't do that. You've got to have, fire in your belly, but ice in your head. And that's not the sort of player that he is. And obviously, 40, 50 million euros, whatever it was, is probably a good price for him. Joachim Low, I think, would have said at half-time, keep yourselves out of trouble. Don't overdo anything. Don't overstretch for anything. If you concede a goal, not a problem. Keep yourselves fit. Stay out of trouble, and just see the game out.
This is 5 Live, and Marcelo has the ball for Brazil down this left-hand side of the field, and then it hits a toe poker, which Oscar will not get. If you're just joining us, what is it back home? 10:10 in the evening. This is the scoreline.
Well, where have you been for one?
Well, this is the scoreline. Brazil 0, Germany 5, and this is the World Cup semi-final, and I have never seen balloons punctured to the extent that they were here this evening. I've never seen an atmosphere in a stadium subside the way it did here. The Brazilians came out to unbelievable support. Never heard an anthem sung as loudly as it was here. And they started okay, and the Germans looked as if they were a bit affected by the occasion. But then once Muller stroked them into a lead, unmarked following a corner, well, then the goals came from Klose, that record 16th at the World Cup, 2 from Kroos, and then Khedira. 5-0 to Germany. And I think now it's very safe to say that the 2014 World Cup final will be Germany against either Argentina or Holland. Could be an all-European final, or it could be, for the 3rd time in a World Cup final, Germany against Argentina. 1-1 in the previous finals. Muller now down the left-hand side. Ozil's there, just inside. Lovely running again from Muller. Klose is looking interested. Muller's going to run towards the dead ball line and try and pull this ball back for Klose. David Luiz, knocked it back to goalkeeper Julio Cesar, and just about got away with that one. And as Brazil move forward, Joachim Low, even though he's leading 5-0, is still conducting his team down below. Out comes Neuer, and he got there first ahead of Ramirez, looked to be body checked, and then the referee's going to make a great song and dance of it, though. He's just going to give the free kick.
Yeah, Manuel Neuer, won the free kick, got tripped up, did 17 rollovers, but then to be fair to him, did jump up straight away. You talk about how seriously will Germany take this second half. Well, I'll tell you what, Muller's on, 5 goals now. Obviously, James Rodriguez out of the tournament on 6. I'm sure Muller won the Golden Boot last time.
Yes, he did with 5.
Has anybody ever won it? Twice in a row?
Twice in a row. Well, at the moment, he's got that incentive, obviously, as Lahm now playing it right back, and he does look so much better. I mean, he's great in midfield, but he is exceptional at right back. And now Schurrle of Chelsea is going to come into the game, and he's going to replace Klose. Well, Klose's got his 16th World Cup finals goal. Remember, he played in that 2002 final in Yokohama. The Brazilian team on that occasion was much stronger than this Brazilian team, and the German team on that occasion nothing like as strong as this German team. So Klose's replaced by Schurrle. Schurrle, who's given the Germany side good service in this World Cup, coming on for the last half an hour, always a threat, and he's going to run hard at this Brazilian defence and maybe cause even more anxiety around the stadium. Diving header away by Germany. Brazil regroup in midfield with Paulinho. Paulinho now for Luis Gustavo. That ball towards Marcelo was a bit short, and then as he drifts in field, he's caught by Schurrle. But I mean, everything is, the bottom has just dropped out of this semi-final in terms of anticipation and expectation and everything that we were looking forward to really here today. This is so one-sided and so sad for the host nation as the ball is played in. And the other thing is, Danny, in the aftermath of all of this, I mean, most of the talk is going to be about Brazil, but I mean, I wonder how much credit Germany are going to get for turning them over here in such a way tonight.
Well, they've been incredible. They've just sort of epitomised everything that German football is about.
Shooting chance from Fred, but he doesn't really get anything on it at all. Straight at Muller, and there are immediately boos around the stadium because I think that they thought Fred had more of a stab at that one. Khedira moving forward, already now nearly 15 minutes gone in the second half, and the ball is through to... No, it's not through to Schurrle. He won't chase that because I think he would have been offside. And the ball is back with Julio Cesar.
Well, just checking, Mike. No one's ever won the Golden Boot twice in a row at World Cups. Obviously, Muller needs one more goal.
Given away, and here goes Muller looking for another goal, and he goes round the goalkeeper. No, he doesn't, because Julio Cesar managed to get something on the ground there, and Germany have to settle for the corner kick over on the far side.
Just like no one's done it twice. Muller nearly put himself in prime position to do that. So my able, glamorous assistant Ian Dennis was looking it up. It only went back to 1978, so we needed the internet for a little bit of extra help.
Well, he's one short at the moment of Rodriguez, the Colombian who leads with 6 at this tournament. Short corner for Germany, leading by 5-0. Ball is played back to Schweinsteiger on the edge of the area. Now Khedira. Muller's looking interested once more inside that penalty area. Ball goes back to Khedira. Muller's pointing, give it to me, to my feet here. Khedira instead, though, finds Toni Kroos. Toni Kroos now onto Muller, edge of the area. Muller takes a shot on, and Julio Cesar turns it away one-handed for a corner kick. And now I think that just amplifies everything we've been saying about Thomas Muller.
Fabulous player. Left foot, right foot. Just gets himself in a little bit of space. Just turned and just tried to bend the ball into the top corner. In the end, it was a fabulous save.
Another short corner to Germany. 5-0 they lead. Ball played forward and then given away this time by Germany. And it'll be brought out from the back by Dante. And Dante just hoofs the ball towards the halfway line. Bernard does well in the air, gets above Lahm. Fred's slow to control that, but then eventually gets it. And the crowd are booing Fred here. There's no question about that. Fred is getting some grief from the crowd here. And Oscar, I mean, I'm not quite sure why they're targeting him in particular, because nobody down there has done themselves any favours tonight in the Brazil side. It's Bernard now, down the left. Cross comes Schweinsteiger. Schurrle rather. The ball is played into David Luiz, who got that thrilling goal, of course, in the last round. Ball chipped into Maicon in the penalty area. Maicon tries to bring it down, takes a tumble, again looking for a penalty. Germans complaining, corner kick is given only. And I think the Germans are just saying to the referee that was another dive, probably the third in this second half. The Brazilians are getting desperate. Oscar's got a corner over on the far side. What do you think of that?
Well, Brazilian players are trying, anytime they get in the box, they go into ground far too easily. Anything for a consolation at the moment.
5-0 to Germany. Corner kick to Brazil. Over on the far side, a backward header by Schurrle to clear. But now Bernard lifts it in, and Neuer's there once more with those capable hands in the German goal. Holds onto the ball and then throws it out, gets good distance. Özil up against Maicon. Maicon from the angle gives it back again to Julio Cesar, the goalkeeper, away to the right. Well, Scolari, of course, had the stress and strain of being with the host Portugal in Euro 2004 and losing the final against Greece. That was hard for him. This is worse. As a Brazilian, he'll be feeling this as his team go forward, and the ball in is poor really towards Fred, and Germany easily clear to the far side of the field.
You have to remember that normally the Brazilian press conference is very, very long. I just wonder...
We just got a picture of Ronaldo, by the way, there.
Well,
commentating here for Brazilian TV, I imagine.
It's a double blow, isn't it? Because he's lost his record to Miroslav Klose, and they're getting thumped 5-0. But it's just, it's just incredible. Now the game it's become a nothing game.
Well, it's an exercise in total futility now for Brazil. Germany are quite happy for them to have the ball because Brazil keep giving it away anyway. And that's been threaded through from Marcelo straight through to Manuel Neuer in the German goal away to our left. I mean, when England shocked Germany in Munich, that was quite a stunning evening, but that was a qualifying game. That wasn't the semi-final of the World Cup. And now here we go with Paulinho for Brazil. Ramirez makes the run. Paulinho's overrun that one, though. And Hovedes, who hasn't missed very much at left-back, clears. And the ball is back once more. And still Joachim Low, it's him down there, not Scolari, trying to sort of keep his side going, even though they're leading 5-0. He wants to focus, I suppose, as Bernard gives chase once more. Neuer has to get back in his goal. Bernard's ball in to nobody at all, apart from the German left-back Hoverders, and that's a no-nonsense clearance from him onto the Belo Horizonte sign over on the far side, and Brazil quickly take the throw. 5 live, 18.5 minutes gone in the second half. The most amazing World Cup first half here in the semi-final, with Germany going into a 5-0 lead inside half an hour.
So just going back to that, Mike, normally the Brazilian press conference is an hour and a half long. We could be here all night. It could be. The post-mortem for this is not just me tonight. It's going to go on for days, for months, possibly even years. This is it's so unprecedented, and to happen on your home turf, it's just unbelievable.
Here they come again, the Germans, and the ball is played into the area. Cesar will get there. And all the television channels here, from breakfast time onwards this morning, it's been wall-to-wall coverage, as you would expect, building up to this game. 200 million Brazilians hopeful, and here now goes Bernard, and it's a lost cause for them. Bernard's ball, even that wasn't measured right to Paulinho, and then he was a little bit late, and he's caught one of the German players over on the far side. And Joachim Löw, of course, can make one more change if he wants to, and I'm sure he'll be talking to his coaching staff down there, and they'll be weighing up the fitness of all the players. They won't want to take a risk with anybody who's maybe not completely 100% fit. And Germany have a free kick.
And that's why I would have said, go out there, just protect yourselves. Don't get injured, do things the simple way, don't overstretch in any way, shape or form, and just go out and be sensible. Even if you concede a goal, don't concern yourselves. The most important thing for Germany now is the final.
Well, this World Cup began with a Brazilian own goal, which is turning out to be quite symbolic now, because Marcelo put through his own goal against Croatia in the opening game, but then Neymar in particular got them back with 2 goals, 3-1 victory. They had a few lucky breaks as well along the way in that game. So symbolically, this Brazilian World Cup began with a Brazilian own goal, and this is where it's going to end, in the stadium where it ended for England, of course, against Costa Rica. Long ball forward, very different circumstances though. Fred making a negligible contribution, now battles back, and he's still being booed by the fans here. Maicon down the right-hand side into midfield, and Ramirez is just being hustled by Schweinsteiger there as if it's still 0-0. I mean, Schweinsteiger wasn't going to allow him to go through. Luiz again. There'll be a lot of debate too, I'm sure, about now. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, whether all the right players were here for Brazil. Robinho, for example, was left out, and people like Coutinho of Liverpool were nowhere even near it. And now Germany again, left-hand side. That's a fantastic ball. Schweinsteiger might have got it. Schurrle might get it instead. Julio Cesar does well. Comes out of his area, and Schurrle shakes his fist. He thought he might have had a chance there of Germany's 6th goal. And Brazil now moving it down this left-hand side. At least from Brazil's point of view, there's been nothing more to stun them in this second half, as the ball is played into the penalty area. It won't come down for them. Now it's lifted in, Mertesacker's header, and there's a flag up over on the far side. So the bicycle kick was in vain. The bicycle kick came from Paulinho, and it's going to be a free kick to Germany. And, it's not quite the halfway point of the second half, but I think it's actually quite a good moment, as there's a break in play here. I wonder whether Ian Dennis is going to describe a record defeat for Brazil. Remember, 6-0 is that record scoreline in 1920. Over to you, Ian.
I've worked quite closely with Mike over the last 5 years covering England, and over the last 5 years I've been quite reliant on him. And I'm going to have to ask for one last favour. Could I borrow your stopwatch? Because mine is a little bit like the Brazilian defence. It's stopped working. Thank you, Mike, and not just for the stopwatch. If you want to interact, then we're more than welcome to receive your texts and tweets here on 5 Live, your World Cup station. We do try and pride ourselves on being interactive. Here are a couple, not who've gone into 5 Live, but Jose Altidore. All jokes aside, this is crazy. Hope Brazil can get a couple back. Hate to see the host nation go down like this. And Piers Morgan. And I'll preempt this by saying I'll make no other comment once I've read out his tweet. I backed Brazil to win, Fred to score, and declared Luiz my man of the tournament. I feel a complete and utter prat. 5 Live, we're with you here until the end of this game. And when we were last here, of course, it was a complete dead rubber. England against Costa Rica. England were already going out. And ever since that 5th goal's gone in, we've had another hour of another dead rubber in Belo Horizonte.
But even England's defence was better than this. I'm not sure. Well, they might have been beaten 5 by Germany, but certainly probably not in the first 30 minutes.
Here is Lahm for Germany. Red and black hoop-striped shirts. Lahm into the penalty area. Low ball, pelting. There is the goal from Schurrle, and it is a record equalling defeat for Brazil since 94 years. Brazil 0, Germany 6. It is a night nobody will ever forget.
Frightening. Knife through hot butter, doesn't even describe it. You can now hear all the fans around the stadium, every single one of them booing. They are absolutely outraged. There was four defensive players in and around Schurrle, and he just went, no.
Well, there's been pockets of dissent during this second half. The stewards in their luminous orange and yellow jackets have had to intervene on 2 or 3 occasions. There was sporadic fighting high up away to our right, which was quickly nipped in the bud. But I do fear that it is going to turn and continue to turn sour, because Willian is on for Brazil. Germany's record World Cup win, by the way, was against Saudi Arabia in the group stages of 2002. That was 8-0. It is 6-0. It is an unbelievable scoreline and will send shockwaves throughout world football. Brazil totally and utterly humiliated. Paulinho, to their credit, you know, there are still so many yellow shirts inside this stadium that holds just under 57,500. Call me fickle, but I'd have gone a long time by now. Floated over. Brazil looking for the consolation, and it was Marcelo who has been exposed time and time again. And Arsene Wenger, you know, who's commentating for French TV, said these Brazilian players will be traumatised for life. And Germany coming forward. Khedira. Ozil over on that far side. Schurrle again. Kroos this time had got round the back of Marcelo. They are incredibly open still at the back.
They've given up. We've just seen a very dejected Fred on the sideline. He was taken off for Willian coming on, I think purely to save him from any more embarrassment. Every time he touched the ball, he was getting massive jeers and boos, and I think Scolari said, look, you know, that's not nice. The only way to sum it up, I think Mike said it earlier, it's actually quite sad.
Here is Willian. We'll get the thoughts of Tim Vicker in a moment. Willian, who's a substitute, goes for a curling effort. Tim, 1920 was the last time that Brazil suffered a 6-0 defeat against Uruguay. Your thoughts, please?
Very, very sad for these players. There'll be an orgy of self-hatred now over the next few days. Remember, this team will have to play again on Saturday. Straight afterwards, next week, the Brazilian Championship resumes. So the focus will be back on club football very, very soon. I hope that doesn't mean that Brazilian football just looks at it, it stares at its own belly button. I hope that this defeat will have wide-ranging effects, because Brazilian football is operating ludicrously below its potential.
Well, nobody, of course, ever wants to play in a 3rd, 4th place playoff after the disappointment of losing a semi-final. But
will any Brazilians turn up for that? That would be my question. I think they'll be so disenchanted with their team, so despondent. You can hear the boos ringing round at the moment. I'm not sure that, you know, even those with tickets might go, you know what, it was so embarrassing, the players don't deserve our support.
Here is Mertesacker to Schurrle. You can only admire the Germans, by the way. I know a lot of the focus has been on Brazil, and quite rightly so, with the scoreline maybe, because it is totally astonishing. But the Germans have been fantastic. They're into an 8th World Cup final. And you look at their record since Euro 2004, when they failed to get out of the group stages, and they failed to reach the last 4 of a World Cup or Euros since. I know it's 18 years since they last won a major tournament, Euro 96, but for tournament football, Rafa Honigstein, it's an incredible record, and one, there's some more fighting. I think he's just breaking out on that right-hand side. The stewards are getting involved. Rafa, you'll never have a better opportunity to end that 18-year wait.
That is true, although with every goal that Germany score here, the pressure just becomes bigger on them. after nervy 1-0 or 2-1 after penalties or that sort of result, you wouldn't have necessarily such a clear favourite. Now, whatever Argentina or Netherlands will do, Germany will go in this game with a feeling that they've only can throw it away, and I think that's very dangerous. I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit too Germany and seeing already the negatives after a 6-0 win against Brazil. But of course it does increase the pressure on Löw, and it'll be a nice result to remember, but it'll count for very, very little if they don't win the World Cup, and that is a serious point.
Well, the one thing that they do have in their favour is huge experience. Tally of the Brazilian starting lineup was 406 caps. Brazil, with Lahm, Schweinsteiger and Klose, 3 Centurions, was 352. Kroos has scored a couple of goals, is actually making his 50th appearance tonight for his country, and with that there's actually another 5 players with 50 or more caps. This is a German squad that has so much experience, and I remember being in Sweden when they beat England in the under-21 championships by 4-0, and 6 of those players are in this squad here for World Cup 2014. And one of England's gripes is about player progression. On that night in Malmo, England had Martin Craney and Michael Mansio. Where are they now? We know where the Germans are. They're romping their way through to the World Cup final at the Maracanaço with 15 minutes remaining. Germany are leading by 6-0 against the host nation, who have suffered their heaviest defeat since 1920, so 94 years. Oh, this is going to hurt. They wanted to so exercise the ghosts of 1950 and losing the final to Uruguay. Well, not going to happen. It's going to be a night that will haunt them, a new generation of Brazilian supporters for many, many years to come. Here is Luiz, flicking the ball over the head of Schweinsteiger. Schweinsteiger recovers, brings him down, free kick. Germany going to make a change. Danny Mills.
Well, I think Germany now just going to see the game out. You said the substitution about to be made. It's actually Schweinsteiger that's going to come off. I just, listening to you talk about those statistics, now you stopped at counting up to 3 players, adding up those numbers. 719 caps, I think Germany started with at the beginning of this game, compared to Brazil's 406. The experience that they have, and the average age of the players now, around about 24, 25. All these players are just about hitting their peak. And just to wrap me honest in there, I think the disappointment now will be from Germany if they don't go on and win this, because these players, they are in their prime. They've proved, at their clubs they are exceptional. They've now proved here this evening that they are worthy winners of a World Cup. Now they've got to go out and prove it.
Well, I was flattered earlier to be called your glamorous assistant, but maths has never been my strong point. That's why I stopped at 352.
Although your Portuguese, I have to say, has been very, very good and has been well worked on this trip. Has saved us on more than one occasion getting us into a restaurant.
I have my uses. Julian Draxler is on for Sami Khedira. It's his first appearance of this tournament. The Schalke player. It's his 12th appearance for his country. Muller has just been told to get away. I think there was a wild swing by Luiz that he reacted to. I asked for your texts and tweets. Upbeat Trig has sent Germany proving to the world Brazil just aren't very good. It's a well-oiled German machine tearing up a rusty shell-shocked Brazil. Adam Carter, 1985, OK, this is humiliating for Brazil, unbelievable, incredible. And Hamnes, take Neuer off, he could do with the rest. Football justice. The worst Brazil side ever. This was coming, not 5-0 though. Well, if you missed it, since that was sent, they've added another. 6-0, 5 Live, your World Cup station in 2014. Tomorrow night, Sao Paulo, the 2-hour build-up to Argentina against Holland. It certainly will not be as one-sided as this. And then Sunday's final in the Maracanaço at 8. And do not forget to miss Mike Ingham, the World Cup years. Friday at 9 and Sunday repeated at 1. Looking back on his 8th World Cup tournament. Have I dropped a faux pas?
I think you said, do not forget to miss.
Oh, do not. It's been a long tournament, don't worry, I'm going home tomorrow. He'll give me another kick under the table. I've had a few of those on this tournament. I've had a few over the last 5 years, to be fair, from Mike.
Don't forget to listen to Mike's World Cup years, I think is what we need to say.
Yeah, I'm shell-shocked like the rest of them. I'm not Brazilian. Anyway,
I think the German fans are actually genuinely shocked as well.
Schurrle has added a second for himself. And now Germany have scored 7, and it is the heaviest defeat in Brazil's history. Brazil's illustrious history, and the hurt continues on a night when the nation of Brazil is totally humiliated. It is a complete and utter nightmare, and it is a scoreline which the Germans cannot believe and the Brazilians cannot believe. Brazil 0, Germany 7. And Andre Schurrle with a left-footed shot in off the underside of the crossbar.
What a fantastic strike. It was just lobbed back in to the edge of the box. He was running through, took it, smashed it in at the near post, on off the other side. Julio Cesar, absolutely no chance. The Brazilians had given up on him. David Luiz couldn't chase him anymore. And the celebrations were almost apologetic. Even the German fans were shaking their heads, going, is this real? You know, euphoric for them, but they should. No one in their wildest dreams, I don't think, would have put a bet on Germany winning by 3 clear goals, 4 clear goals at the very, very most. But 7, just, well, we are literally speechless.
Well, now they're heading for the exits of the Brazilian supporters. I was slow to pick up the goal because I'd actually just been handed a note which said the biggest World Cup semi-finals wins. Well, it now eclipses all of these previous scorelines I'm going to give you, because this is the biggest margin in a World Cup semi-final, eclipsing Argentina 6, the United States 1, and Uruguay 6, Yugoslavia 1 in 1930, and West Germany's 6-1 victory against Austria in 1954. Shot comes in from Marcelo on the edge of the area. That's wide. 7-0 to Germany. And we have still 10 more minutes remaining. They might well yet equal their record win in a World Cup, the Germans, against Saudi Arabia, that was 8-0. The records continue to be broken. Miroslav Klose beating Ronaldo's record, the all-time leading scorer now in the World Cup. Brazil, the heaviest defeat in their entire history. That is remarkable in itself. You're almost, well, we are.
I really don't know what to say anymore. It's 7-0. Brazil started okay. Germany have been exceptional. You know, they weathered the storm for that 10-15 minute spell, and then they have just been so efficient, so clinical in their play. You know, it really has been. We've concentrated a lot on Brazil and how awful they've been, especially defensively. They've been absolutely shocking, a complete shambles at times. Germany have just controlled this. Since they went 2-0 up, it then became men, not even against boys, against infants. It's been that easy for them.
The Brazilians are actually olaying the Germans now. The Brazilian support are olaying Germany football as they're keeping the ball and coming forward. It can't get much worse, this humiliation, this abject humiliation for Brazil. Their own supporters are olaying the opposition, who are leading by 7-0. From a footballing sense, I remember being at St James's Park where Newcastle scored 7 or 8 against Spurs, and I remember Kevin Keegan feeling for Jerry Francis after the game. He said, I didn't enjoy it after a while. He felt for his opposite number. I just wonder if Joachim Löw is feeling the same as well here, because Germany with Schurrle into the penalty area, cleared by Dante.
Well, I mentioned earlier, Ian, about, you know, try and put it in perspective. You know, this is what, you know, England Moldova 5-0, England San Marino, I'm sure there's a 7-0. You know, it's just, but absolutely staggering. I really cannot believe that it has got to this point. You know, Brazil, Phil Scolari stood on the sideline now, arms folded, must be thinking, how on earth am I going to explain this to not just the Brazilian press, but the world's press after this game.
Well, you hear the cliche trotted out, there are no easy games in international football nowadays. Well,
apart from this one.
Apart from this one. We will certainly have a repeat of a previous final, whether it be 1990 in Argentina, West Germany winning that, of course, in Italia 90, or indeed the 74 final, where the Germans beat Holland 2-1. Because tomorrow in Sao Paulo, Argentina against Holland, we've got 6.5 minutes remaining, and Germany are coming forward. And this is Lahm, and they've still got runners going on ahead of them. Schurrle, who's on a hat-trick, cleared though by Gustavo towards Marcelo. And Marcelo will play it forward to Willian. They came with hopes, they came on a ride of emotion. This wave of emotion, but they've been completely dismissed by the German efficiency and their own shambolic defending.
I was just about to say, this might sound really odd and maybe a bit daft, but Germany have won this without trying that hard.
Oh. Out towards that far side, Maicon to Paulinho, opens up his body, cleared away by Boateng. Tomorrow we've got the first day of the first test starting at Trent Bridge. There'll be coverage on 5 Live Sports Extra from 10:25. In cricketing parlance now, the Germans can easily declare, leading by 7-0. Brazil are forward now, and this is with Ramirez. Ramirez will turn straight towards Neuer. They've not let up though. That's why you've got to admire the Germans. Even Neuer earlier in the second half making those saves. They've not eased off the pedal at all.
A lot of pride about them, the performance. They won't want to concede goals. Yes, they've taken it a little bit easy in the second half, but they've taken the whole game. They've played with such a swagger, such a confidence and an air of belief, and just sheer efficiency is what they've done. They haven't really had to work hard. They haven't had to go and close the Brazilians down. So once they got that second goal, that was it, game over. They've been in complete control ever since.
Well, for Germany, they're unbeaten in their last 17 internationals now. They've won 12 and drawn 5. They're going into the World Cup final in the Maracanaço on the crest of a wave. Their confidence will be high. Rafa Honigstein back in studio.
There will be incredible headlines tomorrow about the dream, about the miracle of Belo Horizonte, about Germany having 1.5 hands at the cup, if that's possibly anamotically possible. And they'll be waiting for whoever will be the underdog in that final. That will be the assumption in Germany, and Löw will try his best to downplay everything. He'll say, this is another game, we'll have to start again. We can't take anything for granted, but the players will go into this game with so much confidence. They were shaky against Algeria, they were shaky against Ghana, but with the confidence that's come into their game, coupled with the ability, they look absolutely awesome today.
Well, the thing is as well is that for Joachim Löw, this is his 4th major finals. He's yet to taste the success, and he wants to obviously change all that. Runner-up in 2008. 3rd, of course, in South Africa, beating Uruguay in that 3rd, 4th place playoff, and then semi-finals in the 2012 Euros. What will the headlines be back in Germany, Rafa?
Well, it will be all about a result that nobody thought was possible, and a result that we'll probably never see again. A 7-0 in a semi-final between the two of the best teams in world football is something that I'm not sure we'll ever see again. To see a team fall apart and to see a team hit them with all they've got.
The German supporters high up away to our right-hand side are swaying from side to side. They're either bare-chested or wearing the white shirts. It's a night they will never forget. It's a night nobody will ever forget, whether you're actually inside the stadium of Belo Horizonte, and it is far from a beautiful horizon as far as the Brazilians are concerned, or indeed from a German's point of view, because they have been fantastic, Brazil have been awful, and we have 2 minutes of normal time remaining. And here is Mertesacker backpedaling, and Neuer, the sweeper keeper, midway through the German half. Kroos forward, and just dropping to collect this ball is Julian Draxler. playing the ball at walking pace, stroking it around, oozing with confidence. Özil, and finding the space as well. Lahm towards Schurrle. Luiz will cover, in fact he'll leave it towards Julio Cesar, who throws it out underarm towards Marcelo.
Not sure we're going to need your Portuguese tonight, Ian, to get us a table in a restaurant. I think there might be plenty of spaces, might be lots of empty tables.
Offside trap is beaten by Oscar. Oscar across the face of goal. Won't even go out for a goal kick. It goes out of play for a throw. And there's a few more hoots of derision from the Brazilian supporters who have remained inside the stadium. And now here in Belo Horizonte you can actually see those shades of degrees of grey of the bucket seats here. But it is not a grey night, it is a black night for Brazil. 7-0 as a host nation.
The worst thing is for them now, they've got to come out and play the third, fourth place playoff. You know, and that's going to be a horrible game for them to be involved in.
Here is Willian. Shot comes in from Bernard, off target, left-footed, high and wide. A few supporters behind that goal just throw their arms away in disgust as well. And Neuer quickly wants to take that goal kick. That was the first little bit of lazy play from Germany, picked up by Ramirez. Now the ball cannons away and there's a break on. And all of a sudden Germany going in search of an eighth. It's played through the middle. This is Özil. Özil's got a chance to weigh this one up and he pulls it wide.
Terrible miss from Mesut Özil. Broke the offside line, one-on-one with a goalkeeper on the edge of the 18-yard box, on his left foot. You're thinking, just roll this in. 8-0. Dragged it wide.
Just to put things into perspective, Brazil's first home defeat for 12 years as Oscar's into the penalty area. Oscar now with the consolation. Oscar with the consolation, right-footed, beats Neuer. There will be no fourth clean sheet for Germany, but it will make not one jot of difference for Brazil. They celebrate in the tamest of scenarios for Brazil. Brazil 1, Germany 7. It will not alter the fact that the host nation have still been humiliated at home, as 2 minutes have added on time here in Belo Horizonte.
Well, I think Germany will be a little bit disappointed with that. It was just a long, hopeful ball through. But I think the cheers were ironic cheers more than anything else. You know, I'm sorry, but it's 7-1. It's not even a consolation.
No, it's not. Ball played forward. So their first home defeat in 12 years, their first competitive defeat at home in 39 years, the heaviest defeat in a World Cup semi-final. And their record defeat in their illustrious history. Ball pulled back, Marcelo into the penalty area. Sorry, it's Willian rather, Marcelo's in close proximity. There's the back heel. Bernard, sliding challenge comes from Lahm. Knowing the Germans, they'll complain about not being happy about keeping a fourth clean sheet.
Well, Manuel Neuer certainly will be. You know, he's made some good saves in the second half, and you know, he'll be bitterly disappointed he's conceded a goal.
Here is Willian into the penalty area, headed away then by Boateng. And that's why you've got to admire them. That ruthless winning streak that they have. And Neuer now will go long and deliberately keeps it low towards Özil. And there's another break on here. Özil carves the ball forward. And it's looking towards Draxler, and Draxler might... No, the referee's blown his whistle.
I think the referee felt sorry for Luis Gustavo there. There was a little bit of a tangle of legs, gave the free kick, and the referee ends the game. That's it. Humiliation.
Brazil 1, Germany 7. Brazil's misery is complete, but it's a night that will haunt them forever. Mark Pugac.
Well, in 1950, where they lost the final game to Uruguay in the Maracanaço, it became known as the Maracanaço. I wonder if there's going to be a similar word here, as David Luiz is on all fours. Luis Gustavo, I think, is praying and crying. Several of the Brazilians slumped to the ground while the Germans embrace each other. Brazil 1, Germany 7. Danny, nobody has a betting slip in the world with that on it. I don't care who they are, what they say. Nobody has a betting slip anywhere near like that on them.
Not a chance. It's just been incredible. Look at the Brazilian players now. That they'll feel humiliation. They'll be devastated. They'll be embarrassed. It's just unprecedented scenes. You know, David Luiz for about 3 minutes after the game, stood there, his 2 fingers in the air, on his knees, looking at the sky, obviously saying some sort of prayers. You mentioned Luis Gustavo as well. There are players down there inconsolable. I think Thiago Silva's just gone on. I think he's with Oscar.
I think he's with Oscar, who's in absolute floods of tears. And I think, as Ian said, that Arsene Wenger said, who's on French television about 10 yards away from us, they will be traumatised for life by this. Danny, does that seem right? In a footballing sense, they will be traumatised forever by being part of this absolute humiliation.
Completely, because wherever you go, whatever happens, even if they go on and win the next World Cup, they will always be saying, you were part of that team, you let us down, you let yourselves down, but most importantly, you let 200 million people down. We talked about this before the game. We said, how many people will be wearing a yellow shirt or a Brazilian shirt? And we probably said maybe half the country, maybe 100 million people.
Now the boos have started as the Brazilian team congregate in the centre circle. I wouldn't really say it's a huddle, it's a bit like they're defending, it's a bit of a mess, it's a bit of a mishmash. And Luis Felipe Scolari is having a word with Oscar. Oscar's been cradled by Thiago Silva like a father who knows that his son is very, very upset. There were some boos. There's still some whistles. Now the noises for the Germans, who are going to their supporters, where the main bulk of their supporters is, away to our right. And it looks like Scolari's almost having a debrief in the centre circle already. Listen to the whistles again. As the Brazilian team started to walk towards the tunnel, they decided to applaud their fans. And that's what they're getting in response.
Well, they're getting battered, and rightly so. But I think Scolari came onto the pitch and said, don't you dare walk off this pitch without applauding your fans. They have turned up, not just here tonight, but all over the country. And have been exceptional supporting this nation as a football team. And I think he's going to say, look, you owe them something. Stand there, be a man, be counted, and apologise to the fans.
And we see, as we did before kick-off, the German away to our right holding up the big card which says 4 on it. Well, they will be favourites to win their 4th world title this Sunday. And as Ian said, it's either a repeat of the 1974 final against the Dutch or the 1990 final against Argentina. Luis Felipe Scolari hauling himself down the tunnel. Luis is in floods of tears as well. Thiago Silva is walking off with him. But Thiago Silva should feel extremely responsible, Danny Mills, for a ludicrous and needless bookie against Colombia, which ruled him out tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't need to do it, did he? Ran past the goalkeeper, just nicked the ball off him and kicked it in the back of the net. They appealed the decision, but, it was never going to overturn that yellow card. He was sorely missed. I think David Luiz, just looking down the touchline, has been dragged away as captain. He's going to have to face the media. Under a week ago, he was the Brazilian hero, an absolute legend. We talked about him before the game. The fans were talking about him. Captains his team in a World Cup semi-final, responsible for the first goal, and they get beaten 7-1.
The only thing I would say, Mark, and Mike mentioned that FIFA didn't make any reference to the sad death of Di Stefano yesterday. Just to put things into perspective, FIFA also didn't make any reference to the fact that last weekend 2 people died here in Belo Horizonte as a bridge collapsed. 20 people were seriously injured. 2 people lost their lives here in Belo Horizonte. To put it into perspective, as a nation mourns a football defeat, there are more important things than a game of football.
Absolutely, well said. I remember Michel Platini saying that he went back into the dressing room after the 1982 defeat to West Germany, and devastated though they were, he realised quite soon afterwards, nobody died, it's a game of football, we've lost. But Julio Gomez from BBC Brazil, this has to be the darkest day in the history of Brazilian football. Forget 1950 and the Maracanaço in Uruguay. Is this not worse?
It is. It is. First of all, great words. Definitely right. There are more important things than this. But yeah, definitely. It's the darkest day in Brazilian football. As I said, hopefully it will be bad enough for Brazilian football to be born again, let's say, to rebuild all its structures. Everything is being done wrong in this country regarding football. since top level to youth football, and we needed a shock like this. Hopefully it will have consequences. 1 year from now, if you ask me, Julio, what has changed, and I tell you nothing, then it will be only sadness, isn't it? So hopefully this will be for good. This somehow will be worked by the football authorities here in Brazil, as the Germans did after that horrible Euro 2000 in Belgium and Holland. This is the result of those defeats. Hopefully Brazil will take the same, or at least more or less the same attitudes, the same acts, so to change everything here.
There are tears aplenty here in Belo Horizonte. The recriminations will start. So the word Maracanaço was born after that defeat. What word is going to be born after today? The Mineirão Caço? I don't know, I'm inventing Portuguese here.
Maracanaço comes from, it's a Spanish word, it's because of Uruguay.
Yeah, okay.
So if we had lost to Chile, it would have been a Mineirazo. I was talking to my friends, I don't know, maybe a Mineirão or
a Mineirão.
Mineirão.
Which would mean what? I
don't know. I'm just mixing
word.
Mineirão with German words.
The Mineirão, but it is the worst 90 minutes in Brazilian football history by a long way.
Yeah, definitely. And all the humiliation, isn't it? I mean, your own supporters saying ole, ole when the Germans were passed. Basically, to be honest, if the Germans wanted, they would have won, 15-0. They actually, somehow, they pity Brazil and Brazilians and took it easy, because if they wanted, it would have been 12-1 or anything like that. So yeah, the whole humiliation, it became political somehow.
Yes, they were swearing at the president.
They were swearing at the president. Obviously, these are not her voters, but yeah, it did happen. It will have. There will be people trying to make political use of it. It will be a shame, but it will happen. That's for sure. But again, what I really hope is that Brazil look at Germany. Everybody's looking at Germany, isn't it? I mean, what they did in these last 14 years in their academies, in their youth football. This is not a lucky generation. This is a generation that they basically built, isn't it? This is just only the first one, actually. There will be more to come. So hopefully Brazilian football will look at it and change.
Since failing at Euro 2000, runners-up in the World Cup in 2002, Germany, 2004 the group stages, but then it really does kick on. 2006 semi-finals, runners-up in 2008, runners-up in 2010, semi-finals in 2012, and now a final in 2014.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, just seen David Luiz has just finished his TV interview, walked down the tunnel, and he was apologising to the fans. He had his hands on his chest, put his hands in the air, and I think said the scoop, which is sorry to all the fans, and he must be heartbroken. His big moment as captain of his nation has just been destroyed forever.
It's the only name I heard people shouting
booing at him, shouting at him.
Yeah, exactly. Shouting, I mean, in a positive way.
Oh, in a positive way, right?
Yeah. It's the only name. It's he's one of the guys who will be forgiven. Obviously, the guys who aren't here, Thiago and Neymar, obviously, but there will be a lot of villains.
And all the while, Mark Chapman, we just had a shot, and who can blame them, of German men celebrating drinking beer in their lederhosen away to our right. Germany 7, Brazil 1.
Raphael Honigstein is in the Rio studio with me here. Did you think at the end the Germans looked not embarrassed to celebrate, but a little bit self-conscious? If I'm contrasting it with the quarter-final with Brazil and Colombia, where, depending on your point of view, David Luiz either consoled or patronised James Rodriguez, the Germans very much left the Brazilians to it.
Well, I think Klose had a warm arm around, and the Dante was consoled by some of his Bayern teammates, but you could see with this Germany team the law of diminishing returns had kicked in, because with every goal, by the final whistle, it felt less special. If this had been a scrappy 1-0, or the way they really had to battle against Argentina and France, the relief after the final whistle was incredible. Here, the game was over after 25 minutes, so it was just a long wait just to see this out. And that professionalism is very much a mark of this side. Oliver Bierhoff said he'd been with many teams as a player and as a general manager, he'd never seen a team celebrate so little after going through the quarterfinals. They had a drink, they patted each other on the back, and then they all went to bed. And this is the Germany team. At the danger of continuing stereotypes, Germany have been looking, as a team and as a nation, have been looking for that kind of pragmatism, efficiency, because it had gone out a little bit. Or maybe they were too young, maybe they're a little bit too naive, the new generation coming through. Now this side, they have 6-7 players who already won the Champions League. You could see they are ready, they play with a maturity, and they were ready when Brazil started to falter. Germany were there. They didn't just continue, they went for the kill, and that's why they decided the game so early.
Amy Lawrence alongside Rafa.
Well, I'm interested to hear you use the word pragmatism there, because if you think this is a pragmatic team, I mean, to me, this is a team to admire immensely, so much so that you begin to feel very strongly that this was the moment that, we talk about the era of Spain being the team in world football we all looked at ending when they went out of this World Cup. But in a way, that ending has come here and now, because this is the time when I think you look at Germany and say, this is modern football at its finest.
You were nodding along at the end of when I was putting that question to Rafa about the difference in the teams at the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm still absolutely shell-shocked, and I feel so sorry for these Brazilian players. And
Can I ask why?
Because this is a 90 minutes that they will be reminded of in 50 years' time. And I knew some of the players from 1950 when they lost then, and I know how bitter they were about how they were treated half a century afterwards. They were never ever allowed to forget, and that's harsh. That's really harsh. Class from Scolari at the end, coming on, being the father figure. Having said that, since the half-hour mark, all he's been thinking of, I imagine, is how do I deal with this defeat? What can I do? Because there's nothing I can do to turn this game around.
Do you think, and obviously we don't know, and we're only surmising here, but we had the pictures obviously on the big screen. You might be able to hear the helicopters overhead here at the far end of the Copacabana beach, where there are still several police cars, lights flashing in the distance near the FanFest. It looked, as well as Luis Felipe Scolari giving Oscar a pep talk, it looked like he banged his own chest as if to, and I say we're surmising, but as if to say, let me take the responsibility here.
Yes.
Do you think that's what he will do?
Yes, I think he will. I think he has to. I think that's his role. I think it was almost quite touching the way that he took off his centre forward Frege to save him from what Brazilian crowds, they can be absolutely vicious, and they have a tendency when things are going badly, they will pick on one player and they will go after him. And it was Frege, and anything that Frege would have done, no change. So let's get him out of the firing line. It's lost. Let's preserve him a little bit, you tell the quality. Anyone can be a gracious winner. Anyone can do what David Luiz did to James Rodriguez the other day. How do you react in defeat? That really tells you who has class.
And when we talk about what a defeat can mean for players, Amy.
Yeah, we were reminded of the obvious situation from the 1950 final, and the comments of Barbosa, who was the goalkeeper who was perhaps a bit unfairly scapegoated after that result, was something he lived with, and his quote really rings so horribly true for these Brazilian players. And he said shortly before his death, "The maximum punishment in Brazil is 30 years imprisonment, but I've been paying for something I'm not even responsible for by now for 50 years.
And I've always thought that this team could lose without suffering the same consequences, but I never imagined that they could be absolutely humiliated. And this is a society where humiliation has a huge, huge power. And it's for that reason I feel so sorry for this team.
I was just trying to think in historical context what this game means and what it could mean, because a lot of it will depend on the final. If they don't win, as I said earlier, this will be seen almost like an empty defeat. If they are to win the World Cup, I think this game, this result, could have the same sort of resonance that Germany's win at Wembley, their first ever win at Wembley in 72 on the way to the European Championships had, because England were seen as unbeatable at home, and with that win Germany came of age, won the Euros, then won the World Cup. to beat Brazil 7-1 in Brazil could have that similar kind of marker as far as German football history is concerned.
Let me read you some tweets. Joey Barton, who is David Luiz praying to? If there is a God, he surely deserted him tonight on that performance. John Hartson, I'm at a function in Edinburgh. What on earth has gone on in Brazil? 7-1, wow. Heidi Klum, can you believe that? Can I just point out, these are sent to me. I don't necessarily follow all the people that I'm reading out here. Heidi Klum, I really don't. Heidi Klum, can you believe this? I can't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go to some Brazilian fans who are with Bruce Douglas this evening. Bruce.
Yes, I'm in Cabal. It's this covered, and I'm with a fan now. I'm with Gabriella. A number of fans have walked out. A number of fans wiping away.
We're having real problems with Bruce's line, so we will try again to reconnect that. We'll get the reaction of some Brazilian fans in a little while. Plenty more reaction to come. Mark Pugac and Mike Ingham and Ian Dennis and Danny Mills are still in the stadium in Belo Horizonte. Here in the Rio studio, Tim Vickery, Rafael Honigstein and Amy Lawrence. Your reactions as well to an astonishing semi-final. 85058 hashtag BBC World Cup. Germany have beaten Brazil 7-1 in the semi-final this evening. It's 11:05. Here's Nathan Turvey.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet, this is BBC 5 Live.
Thank you, Mark. The Brazilian captain tonight, David Luiz, has apologised to fans after the country's worst World Cup defeat, losing 7-1 to Germany in Belo Horizonte, as we've been hearing. Many of the players were in tears at the end. Germany will now go on to face the Netherlands or Argentina in the final. The top civil servant at the Home Office has told a committee of MPs there were no records to show whether documents were destroyed or simply lost by the department in the 1980s and 90s. Mark Sedwill was giving evidence to the Home Affairs Select Committee about the loss of 114 files potentially relating to child abuse linked to Westminster. The Labour MP Simon Danchuk wasn't impressed.
He couldn't tell us the names of the files that had gone missing. He couldn't tell us whether the investigator had interviewed the Home Office official who alleges that the Home Office had paid money to the paedophile information exchange. You would have thought that the Permanent Secretary would have done his homework before he went in front of these MPs today.
The Israeli government says it's prepared to send ground troops into Gaza to confront Hamas. Palestinian militants in Gaza say they have fired rockets into Israel. The country's military says it shot down a rocket in the Tel Aviv area. Palestinian officials say at least 15 people have been killed in Gaza by Israeli airstrikes. Israel's president is Shimon Peres.
They are shooting at our children, at our mothers, at our civilians. What for? We cannot compromise with death. We cannot compromise with rockets. We cannot compromise with this sort of a behavior. And we shall stop them.
2 men from Birmingham who travelled to Syria to fight with rebels have pleaded guilty to preparing to carry out terrorist attacks. Naheen Ahmed and Yusuf Sarwar were both 22, were arrested on their return to the UK. Manufacturing output has fallen for the first time in 6 months. It dropped by 1.3% in May compared with the previous month. An investigation has begun in the United States after 6 unopened vials of smallpox virus were found in a storage room in a government laboratory. The freeze-dried samples are thought to date from the 1950s.
5 Live Breakfast. The crisis in Syria continues, of course, and now we hear 1 in 4 Syrian refugee women are caught in a spiral of poverty. This is according to the UN's Refugee Agency.
The civil war has torn apart families, has torn apart communities. These women, you find many women who have fled with their children, unable to flee with their husbands. For the first time, they have to basically bear this burden of looking after the family and also being the sole providers for their families. Many of these women are dependent on aid because they simply cannot find work. Many of these women have never worked before.
5 Live Breakfast.
Weekday mornings from 6.
You're listening to BBC Radio 5 Live, your home of Brazil 2014. This is Mark Pugac in Belo Horizonte. On the night Germany burst the Brazilian bubble in the most extraordinary fashion.
And now we get underway. Breathtaking fixture. Germany-Brazil. Corner kick travels a very long way and it's gone in. And that man has done it again, Thomas Muller. It's gone into the area to Muller, and there's a chance for Klose. Great save from Cesar, but Klose's there. Second time round to break Ronaldo's record. Against all teams, he's done it against Brazil. And is there any way back now for the hosts?
Lahm is forward on the right-hand side. Muller's missed it. Kroos with a shot. There's the third goal. And in a stadium that is soaked in yellow, a black cloud looms large.
If you were giving points out of 10 so far, you might give Fernandinho 1 for putting his shirt on the right way round.
Here is Khedira. Khedira back to Kroos. It's the second goal. Brazil are capitulating, and the Germans are romping their way through to the final in the Maracanaço. This is Khedira. He's got options. He's pulled the ball back to Özil. Here is Khedira again, and Khedira strokes the ball in right-footed. Germany are running riot.
If you're just joining us, this is the scoreline. Brazil 0, Germany 5, and this is the World Cup semi-final, and I have never seen balloons punctured to the extent that they were here this evening.
We are not close enough. It's difficult to understand the attitude.
Lam into the penalty area, low ball, pelting, and it is a record equalling defeat for Brazil. It is a night nobody will ever forget.
You can now hear all the fans around the stadium, every single one of them booing. They are absolutely outraged.
Brazil totally and utterly humiliated.
In all the World Cups I've covered, this is absolutely unprecedented.
Schurrle has added a second for himself, and now Germany have scored 7, and it is the heaviest defeat in Brazil's history. And the hurt continues on a night when the nation of Brazil is totally humiliated.
A tweet from Jürgen Klinsmann, of course, who won the World Cup the last time that the Germans did in 1990. Germany writing World Cup history. Huge, huge compliment. So proud of them. Daniel Sturridge said, fair play to Klose, broke my idol Ronaldo's record. Unbelievable achievement. And Kevin Peterson at 5-0 said, I've seen a few 5-0s before. It's not the end of the world, Brazil. Well, it got worse than that, Mike Ingham. It got 7-1 in Germany's favour. The great thing about sport is that it just continues to enthrall and surprise us from time to time.
Well, I've got to be a bit careful of hyperbole, Mark, but, you know, it's not only the most astonishing game there's ever been, I think, at any World Cup. It's one of the most astonishing games there's ever been in the history of the sport. It's sort of like a bit like the Hungarian victory at Wembley in the 50s, isn't it? And I'm still trying to come to terms with it and make sense of it. And for it to happen here, because you see, I've still got this... I've taken on board everything that's been said by our local friends, but I still have this old-fashioned romantic view of Brazilian football. I know this isn't the Brazil of the 60s and 70s. Nevertheless, I thought for me, coming here, it was going to be the definitive World Cup, simply because I regard this country as being the heartbeat of the game, the rhythm of the game, and I think, you know, in this tournament, many of the visiting teams have also responded to the backdrop of being here, being in Brazil, the history, the culture, the home of the carnival. And so for it to happen here, of all places, is just absolutely extraordinary. The other thing I would say is that, maybe I'm being presumptuous here, but I also think that once England got knocked out, I bet Brazil were a lot of people's second team, even though this isn't the Brazil of Pelé and everything else, you know, Rivellino, because of what they have come to represent over the years. The only player, of course, to have come out of this unscarred is Neymar, who didn't start his first game for 2 years here today. But the other thing that I'm slightly concerned about is I'm not sure the Germans are going to get all the credit that they should get, because in the aftermath of all this, it's all going to be about Brazil. But for me, it's very simple, and Rafa's in the studio still, I think, and we've said this many times. I came away from Bloemfontein 4 years ago. I then went to see them in Cape Town, beat Argentina 4-0. I thought this was on the agenda, not 7-1 against Brazil, but I could see them as being potential World Cup winners here. But the thing is, and Danny's been on the commission, where it works is that the national team works in tandem with the German league. They're all in it together, and that's the lesson for me for English football for the future.
Let's have a word with the BBC reporter Steve Evans, who's at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. Steve, we're probably like us here in Belo Horizonte. They cannot quite believe what they've just been watching on the big screens there and in their homes.
They're starting to believe it now, but you're absolutely right. When it was 5-0, after 30 minutes, people were sort of shaking their heads as though some sort of mirage was appearing on all these screens around me. Now, we're way past midnight here at the Brandenburg Gate, and there is a Brazilian party going on. It's the kind of thing which is meant to happen in Rio and not to happen in Germany, but it's the other way around. And I was listening to your contributor earlier. I think what's impressed them here is that there was a bit of style to that play. It was kind of machine football, but beautifully played. There was imagination and working things, and that's what they love about it. You know, they just think, bring on the final now.
Steve, thank you very much indeed. Steve Evans at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. Tim Vickery back in our Rio studio. Tim, is this the end of, I'm not saying before the third place match, but is this the end of Scolari?
Oh, I would imagine so. I think he was going to go anyway. And before the Chile game, he said, whatever happens, I'm still the last Brazilian coach to win the World Cup. Feels a little bit hollow now. A couple of points on what's just been said, and clearly agree on the danger of Germany not getting enough credit. If they do go all the way, this will be one of the greatest World Cup wins in the history of the sport. Germany had a ferocious first round draw, not only in terms of opponents, but in terms of the location of their games. Last year after Confederations Cup, Oliver Bierhoff, their technical director, said it would be almost impossible for a European team to win this World Cup. Germany have done it so far the hard way and in style. Something Mike said about other teams maybe have responded to the Brazilian backdrop in this World Cup. Well, maybe to an extent, but I think it's perhaps more true to flip it round the other way. I think Brazilian crowds have responded to the quality of modern football played by the other teams, because the football on display, and I felt this very clearly in the game between Ghana and Germany, a really pulsating second half, really intense, and this is the thing that the Brazilian media are picking up on, the intensity of the games in comparison with domestic football in Brazil. This is just it's not even one class, it's two classes, three classes, four classes above. Brazilian football has suffered the huge danger of success, which is that you become complacent and you think that your history will get you through. Julio Gomes has been making absolutely these points, and quite brilliantly as well. This is the moment when all of that balloon should be punctured. The medicine today for Brazilian football has been very, very cruel, but also, I think, very necessary.
I think what is going to be interesting, Mark, about this, if Germany do go on and win the final, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, I'm not sure they're going to be remembered for the final. It would almost be a case of, who did Germany play in the final? You know, when they won it in Brazil, they beat Brazil 7-1 in the semi-final. This will probably be the memorable game. People will almost forget about the final because this is the game that everybody will remember.
Well, yes, I'm sure. I think you're right, Danny, but I think if a little man called Messi runs the game in the way that Maradona did, and if he gets to the final, then I think we'll also be going away with a memory of that too. But I know what you're saying.
I'm telling you, if Germany win it, everyone will be. This is the game that everybody will remember. Oh, Messi might score 3 or 4 in the World Cup final if they get there, and we'll be talking about that. But I just think this game, you'll never. I don't think. I've not been in contact as long as you, but I will never ever see anything like this ever again.
I was interested in what Rafa said earlier on the programme, though. In some respects, Mark, do they want to be overwhelming favourites? Because that's what everybody's going to make them now. Whoever they play, Holland or Argentina, after this, Germany are the favourites, and maybe they won't be comfortable with that role.
I think if they lose the final to Holland or Germany or Argentina, they will be like Holland 74, Hungary 54.
A great team who fell at the final hurdle.
Sorry, Charles. How bad would it now be if Argentina now win the World Cup?
Well, it would make things worse.
Can it get any worse, Julia? I've got my arm around Julia. Can it get any worse?
I think it can.
Messi scores a hat-trick tomorrow and a hat-trick on Sunday.
Yeah, it would be simple. But I tell you what, I think Brazil will back Germany up, even against Holland, because somehow we still have this, isn't it? I mean, we like football, we love football, and this Germany team, I don't know when they scored the 6th or 5th goal, I lost count, they were applauded.
Well, they were applauded for the 7th.
For the 7th?
Yes, right, I think that there were boos for the 6th and applause for the 7th. I think that's the way it was. You're going to have to translate this for us, but we want to play this David Luiz interview in Portuguese because you can hear how emotional he is. So let's have a listen first.
Terminou de jeito muito duro, difícil. Por quê? Eu só queria poder dar alegria ao meu povo. A minha gente que sofre tanto já com inúmeras coisas. Infelizmente não conseguimos. Desculpa a todo mundo. Desculpa a todos os brasileiros. Só queria ver meu povo sorrindo. Todos sabem o quanto era mais importante para mim. Ver.
Now, he said desculpe a few times, which means sorry, doesn't it?
Yeah. He says he only wanted to bring joy to his people, to put a smile in his people's face, and he was really sorry. He said that many times. It's emotional, yeah. It's hard to hear a professional footballer, a man, a good man. He is a good man. He's a great guy. It's difficult. I mean.
It's painful to listen to that, because as you say, he is a good man. It's painful to listen to that. John Southall is down in the mix zone. Now, this is where the players come past. They don't have to stop. They really don't. Quite often they don't. John, what's the scene down there?
Well, you know what mix zones are like, Mark, but I've never seen so many people in the mix zone before in any competition. There must be 200 plus journalists down here waiting, as you say, for the players to come through. No sign of anybody yet. I'm sure the German players will be more than happy to stop. Now, I've done 3 Brazil games at this World Cup, and generally the Brazilians have always stopped and they've always spoken to the media. David Luiz, who I know from Chelsea, as we just heard from him there, is such a decent individual and he's such a decent man. But I wonder tonight if he will stop. I mean, he will possibly be one of the only ones who does, and how long it will be before the Brazil team come through here is anybody's guess. It could be a long time. It could be a long night down here.
I tell you what, they will all stop. That's what happened in 2010. I had never seen and never saw after that such a devastating mix zone as in 2000 after the 2010 Brazilian defeat to Holland. It will probably break the record tonight. But it's a characteristic of these Brazilian players. They never escape from their responsibility. They will all, maybe Fred will skip the reporters, but they will all talk. They will all be crying. There won't be much to say, but they will all be there.
What they do is they sort of walk down an avenue which is sort of through barriers, and as John has just described, there are a couple of hundred reporters there, radio and TV and newspapers as well, and you basically shout and you say, can we have a word? David Luiz, can we have a word with the BBC? And it's up to them whether they stop or not. Luis Felipe Scolari has just said in the press conference, we ask for forgiveness. To the people, please excuse us. I'm sorry we could not get to the final.
What was so extraordinary about the way this game panned out, Mark, was that I'd love to rewind the tape and listen to our first 8 or 9 minutes. Danny and I were commentating. We were just, all of us, taken aback emotionally by the anthem. The German players seemed to shrink, actually, for the first 8 or 9 minutes. I saw them come out against France in the quarter-final and just control the game right from the start. And all of our commentary was suggesting that the Brazilians have made a fantastic start. The Germans look a little bit rattled. And then I have never seen floodgates open in the way that they did here.
It was almost their first attack, wasn't it? You know, you go back for the first 11 minutes, Brazil, you know, okay, their final ball wasn't brilliant, but they were high tempo, they were closing people down, they created some half chances, and they came out like they did against Colombia on the front foot, and we're going to go for this. Suddenly Germany were giving the ball away, which is very un-German-like. The corner comes in, David Luiz loses concentration, 1-0. And then it just fell apart.
And there's no excuse for that, Danny. You're the defender, a World Cup defender. There's no excuse, even though the goal, the Muller goal, was very, very sloppy. There's no excuse for what followed after that, is there? They're only 1-0 down. They've got 80 minutes to get it back.
No, exactly. Well, the excuse for the David Luiz goal, I think he was so pumped up. There was so much adrenaline flowing. We saw the emotion in the players' eyes, the anthem. They were so pumped up on adrenaline, they were chasing around here, there, everywhere, you know, like crazy men, all over the place. And that sort of flowed into that first 10-15 minutes. He lost concentration, lost his man, but then they just fell apart, and it was in the end, it was sad to see.
Have you got a theory why they fell apart?
I think it's tactical. I slightly disagree with you guys. After 10 minutes, I tweeted, and it was 0-0. If Brazil keeps playing like that, it's 3-0 after half hour. I didn't see it coming 5-0 after 25. But I really thought the team was as open as in the other matches. No midfield. Bernard here, I mean, it was a dreadful decision to use Bernard. Now, okay, it's easy to say now, but we were talking about that before. It was a gamble.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a gamble. Brazil could have scored in the first 5-6 minutes. It could have happened. It didn't, and then the team was completely open. So it really reminded me, not a couple of, but some Barcelona matches throughout the years when they struggled in the first 10 minutes just to adjust. And when they adjusted, it was a massacre. So it looked to me that after 10 minutes the German had adjusted. And if Brazil didn't respond to that, it would be a massacre just as it was.
We highlighted pre-match, Marcelo, AWOL, defensive midfielders, nowhere to be seen.
I would actually pin the blame more at those defensive midfield players, because everyone knows what Marcelo is all about. That's the tactic. And in the past, we've been used to, say, Dunga in 1994 doing that job so that Cafu could go flying. And then when they won the World Cup in 2002, Mark, they had the magnificent Gilberto Silva. Tonight, Tim pointed out very early on, Fernandinho all over the place.
That wasn't the Fernandinho we see for Man City, was it? Even Luis Gustavo, who in the last game we said, oh, what a big miss he's going to be, was non-existent tonight. All the talk is about playing 3 holding midfield players. They should have played 5 holding midfield players. I'm not sure it's still
quite rightly, Ian, said that you felt that would be a danger, Marcelo, going forward. And you said, Julio, yes, he will get forward, but Luis Gustavo will shuffle over and block off that avenue of Muller. Didn't happen, did it? No. It just didn't happen.
I thought that Bernard was going to go on that side, and Hulk, who I saw at times at the Olympics, sometimes would switch to the right-hand side. But I mean, Fred, no wonder poor old Fred got booed. I mean, he was anonymous. Hulk didn't get back. It was.
Yeah, but Marcelo, when he plays like that for Real Madrid, has got Khedira, he's got Xabi Alonso, he's got people like that protecting him. That just simply wasn't there this evening.
There was talk at one stage of them playing all 3, Fernandinho, Gustavo and Paulinho. But then we were a little bit surprised that Bernard came in. And so whether Scolari now regrets not doing that, but the other 2 were bypassed.
Let's hear from Juninho, the World Cup winner of 2002. He's just been talking to Jason Mohammed.
Juninho, you know some of these players. It's a very good question the boys have been talking about in the studio. How do they recover?
Well, it'll be difficult. Some of them I don't think will be back to wear the Brazilian shirt. With a lot of pressure on them. But it's wrong for us now. It's criticize all the players. So we saw on the field, we saw German and teach us how to play football. We have to learn from that. We have to learn from the 7 goals that we concern. The Germany played like the way that we like to play, the way that we ever play. So we need now to sit back, see what's wrong with Brazilian football. Is something wrong? It's not because of this defeat. Is something wrong? Especially in the academy, the way that we cheat them to play. So it's a lot of change. I think will come.
Just some more thoughts from Scolari. It's a catastrophe, the worst loss of a Brazil national team. We have to learn how to deal with this. And when talking about the first half blitz of goals, he said it was like we blanked out. Rafa Honigstein, Rafa, is there a little bit of you that thinks, come on, give Germany some credit? It's all about Brazil, this.
No, but the credit that Germany can take is that they exploited Brazil's problems today, and they did it beautifully. I looked at what Joachim Löw said in the press conference. He said that we knew that it would come at us with passion and with commitment, and we had to keep a cool head and resist that pressure and then take advantage. And what was so surprising is that after that first goal Germany scored, you still think there's 80 minutes for Brazil. Don't open up. Don't start running all forward like headless chicken. I mean, this is a Scolari Brazil to be so open, so without any discipline tactically. You know, it almost doesn't matter individually. You can point at all players and saying this is his mistake, that's that mistake. But the whole positioning collectively was all over the place. And Germany, in the end, found it easy. And you saw if you give them a bit of space, then the automatism, as we say in Germany, they kick in. People know where each other are. They play nice 1 and 2s without looking up. The lightness that wasn't there in this tournament so far came back. But it came because Brazil allowed them to do. And you have to praise Germany, of course you do. But Brazil made it easy for them. And I think Germany, that will be the message that Germany themselves will be telling for the next few days. Don't get carried away. Don't think you're already the world champions. We played beautifully, but we were allowed to do that, and whoever will play is not going to make life so easy for us and just roll over.
Rafa, thank you very much indeed. Julio, thank you. Mike, Danny and Ian, thank you very much. We'll be in Sao Paulo tomorrow night for Argentina against the Netherlands. The winners, of course, to play Germany. A night here in Belo Horizonte that shocked the World Cup.
And now Germany have scored 7, and it is the heaviest defeat in Brazil's illustrious history. And the hurt continues on a night when the nation of Brazil is totally humiliated.
Coming up next on 5 Live.